The meeting of the Board of Education is now called to order. Roll call, Geiger.
Present.
Meek.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Williams here. Weiniger.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we will move to number 4, which is the candidate interviews for the Board of Education Directorate District B. We have 9 candidates to interview. There are 8 in person. Unfortunately, Ms. Brownrigg had to change hers to virtual, but she is first just by the fact that her last name starts with a B. So we will start with her. We will go in order of roll call. So we'll start with Director Geiger and move down, ask the same questions to all 9 candidates. They are currently in the superintendent's conference room and will be pulled out at the time that their interview is scheduled, after which they have the opportunity to either sit and listen to all interviews that happen after theirs, or they're free to go, whichever they prefer. So we will, does anybody have questions? Great. All right, well, I see Ms. Brownrigg up on the screen. How are you?
I've been better, but thank you for asking.
Yes, okay, well.
And I respect you being diplomatic, but I have COVID. So it was better for me not to be there today.
Well, yes, well, thank you for being here. Just going to kind of give an overview of how this will look. You'll get a 2-minute introductory just to kind of introduce yourself, whatever it is that you want to say in the first 2 minutes. And then each of the board directors will ask you a single question in which you will have about 2 minutes to answer all of the questions. And then you will have a 2-minute closing statement.
All right. May I ask one question, please?
Sure.
I'd like to read my opening and closing statement. Usually I improvise, but I'm not asking for special treatment, but I have brain fog. So I'm going to read them if that's okay.
Yeah, that's, I don't think there's any rules that say you can't do that. So yes, no, I think you should go ahead and do that. Thank you. You're welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm Sandra Brownrigg, and my deep, decade-long involvement with the Douglas County School District is the core of my candidacy. As the chair of various board advisory committees, I've demonstrated leadership, trust building, consensus building, and teamwork while always prioritizing the best outcomes for the district. Academically, I'm a National Merit Scholar who earned a bachelor's degree from Auburn University at age 20 and later obtained an MBA from Tulane with concentrations in finance and marketing. Professionally, I started as a counselor for children with special needs in long-term treatment, and after my MBA, assumed progressively senior executive roles in technology companies like Lotus, Gateway, and Citrix. I've managed significant budgets and complex projects, including running my own consulting business. Teaching business courses to soldiers as an adjunct professor at Oregon Tech's Fort Lewis campus provided me with valuable classroom management skills and particular empathy for the challenges today's DCSD teachers face. Beyond DCSD, I'm vice chair of Braver Angels, dedicated to bridging political divides, a useful skill in the school district, and secretary of the Indian Park Schoolhouse Association, committed to preserving support local funding for essential local entities, as demonstrated by my role passing a $173 million library bond back in Washington State in 2005, and then last year helping Invest in DCSD pass the MLO. My diverse experiences provide me with a uniquely comprehensive understanding of the school board director's role. With private sector experience and leadership on those board advisory committees, I'm well equipped to help lead our district within the policy governance model, addressing critical issues like funding, capacity planning, and community engagement. I'm eager to serve as a school board director and contribute to our district's ongoing excellence and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Director Geiger.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for applying.
Good afternoon.
Consistent public polling has indicated a concern in the county that this board is too political. I would wonder what you think of that opinion, and as a member of the board, what you might do to rebut that criticism.
As a member of the board, I have the unique privilege of having worked closely with almost every single one of you. And at the board retreat a month or so ago, I got to see collaboration in action. And I will go on the record here right now saying the elevation and governance of this board was a particular reason for me to apply. I find every one of you to have the best interest of the stakeholders at heart. And I think that you are respecting each other's ideological differences while seeking to strike consensus on policy. So I would be an advocate and an ambassador for speaking to that divide and saying that people can disagree principally and still come to consensus on what's best for our students, our staff, and our schools. And this is the exact right group to do that. I think we've come a long way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Brown-Rigg. Thank you so much for your interest in this position. How would you approach handling hot-button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? Feel free to use an example of a past hot-button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Well, as you know, I have been privileged to serve as the Mill Bond Exploratory Committee chair 3 times. And I think that funding is one of the single most hot button issues, qualifies for that more than many. And the way that I handled that was to put people on each committee who represented diversity of thought and belief, and some supported funding and some did not, every single time. So in 2017, we recommended against funding because it was not feasible. The mission of the committee was to speak to the feasibility of the funding, and it wasn't feasible in 2017. You subsequently went out successfully in 2018. And 2022, in a rather caustic environment, we had the same experience, and we brought in people, again, with wildly diverging beliefs who came together in consensus to recommend putting funding on the ballot. And even though that didn't pass, I think that that approach to governance helped build trust in the community, which led to the passage of the MLO in 2023. So the way that I would do that is to make sure that we reflect various perspectives in our deliberative questioning, our active listening, and then come to a decision that's kind of based on that input and also our own principled beliefs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Brown-Rigg. This is Becky. Can you see me? I don't know. Okay.
I can't see you.
Director Myers.
I'm going by
Can
voice.
she? Okay, here we go. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective BOE member, how important is parent input and feedback in shaping the district? And if you want to throw in there, you can say recommendations for improving communication.
Well, communication with parents, productive communication with parents is essential for a healthy school district. Parents are the caretakers of their children from birth until, well, I'm at a certain age and my parents are in their 80s and they still view their job as caretaking and advising me to this day. So the parents have a lifelong commitment to their children. Teachers and staff have a commitment to the well-being of our children while they're in those classrooms. So they also have an imperative role to play in helping our students succeed. Healthy community. Well, the good news in our community is that we have a highly engaged parent community and a highly engaged community in general. And The challenge is that we have a highly engaged community and a highly engaged parent community in general. Everybody's advocating for their own children, understandably, and we need to recognize and support that engagement and use that energy as a force for good. I think that it's actually the thing that can propel us to even greater achievement handled well. So, number one, it's probably my top priority is to maintain and encourage productive community engagement. And number two, I think you're doing a lot of things well. I think the advisory committees that have the ear of the board and the superintendent committees that advise the superintendent on issues such as equity are excellent. And I think that continued strong engagement with both leadership groups is essential. So that's what I would say to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sandra. This is a
Hi.
Hi. This is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
My leadership style, let's put this first in the context of this governing board. At this level, the board functions as a single entity. So we speak with one voice. I've always respected the idea that whatever group I'm serving in should be unified in its presentation to the public, and that it's okay to have principled disagreements, but once decisions are made, we unify behind those decisions and we implement whatever the decisions require. So I have a team approach to leadership, and I have a broad approach to governance. And by that, I mean, again, not to be a policy wonk, but I was looking up John Carver's definition of policy governance. And the thing that he said that I loved was a board should embrace the entity that it is governing. It should not stick its fingers into operations. And so I pride myself as a leader on being able to listen to subject matter experts on each topic and come to a conclusion on policy based on the input of those subject matter experts and the stakeholders of the organization. So I would say that I have a leadership style that is inclusive, but also not afraid to make difficult decisions or to deliberate on challenging topics in a public setting.
All right, Ms. Brownrigg, what do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two, and what do you see would be your role as a director in that?
The biggest challenge that I see in the next 2 years is an opportunity. And that opportunity, whether it's me or another director, is for this particular team to take that policy governance model and to set a clear strategic path forward for the inevitable changes that we are facing. We are facing changes in capacity. We are facing challenges related to funding. And then you come back to the community engagement. I believe that you've made huge progress in creating healthy community relationships and hearing feedback from parents and community members and acting on those. I would check the DAC interaction at the board meeting before last as an example of the board effectively interacting with a board advisory committee in a public discourse on a difficult subject and coming to a good conclusion on the shared problem that you were trying to address. So the opportunity is for you guys to lay, or us, if I'm appointed, to lay such a strong governance model that 20 years from now, when we look back, this will be the point where we decided that the fringe political influences have been tamped down and that the fundamental well-being of our students, their academic excellence, their choice of pathways, and the support for teachers, staff, and schools is first. And I think that you guys are well on your way to doing that, and I would be honored to be a part of the team to address that. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Sandra. Thanks for being here today.
Hi.
What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
I thank you for that question. I believe that I can serve as a bridge. I believe that I am a known entity to the community and to the staff and leadership of the district and to each of you, and that I bring an additional collaborative team member to the table, and that I speak multiple languages, which is a skill I don't quite understand, but I'm able to interact with and understand people across the political spectrum, across the ideological spectrum, and derive what the shared values and shared goals are. So I can help facilitate the best in this particular board. And I think you guys are doing a really good job of that already, as I've stipulated. But I think that I can add to that because I have had the privilege and the opportunity to work with each of you individually. And so I have an understanding that I think might be lacking otherwise.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for your closing
You're welcome.
statements.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to interview today. The pool of candidates from which you will choose is impressive. I was happy for our district when I read the application information of the other candidates. You will be well served. So what sets me apart? Over the past decade, I have been a dedicated and unwavering advocate for our Douglas County School District, serving in leadership roles focused on our schools with a level of commitment that no other candidate can match. Whether as DAC chair or head of the Mill Bond Exploratory Committee, I've consistently shown a commitment to inviting disparate viewpoints in order to make informed decisions that serve the district's best interests. I've also not hesitated to take public stands on crucial, controversial issues when it benefits our students and schools. I am experienced in facilitating deliberative dialogue and difficult discussions in public. The role of a board director involves balancing opposing forces and values, a concept Carl Jung referred to as the tension of opposites. In the policy governance model, the board's duty centers on vision and foresight, planning the path forward while using superintendent monitoring reports to measure current district implementation. Navigating those complexities requires thoughtful and nuanced decision-making, adhering to policy governance principles. I can do that. When executed correctly, this model provides clear parameters, fostering excellence in both areas. We have a really strong opportunity with this particular leadership in this particular framework to strategically plan for forthcoming changes with clarity, accountability, and transparency. If appointed to be a leadership team member, I will immediately bring balance, knowledge, and integrity as a known entity that can be trusted by the board, the staff, and the community. Thank you once again for considering me for this role.
Thank you, Ms. Brownrigg. We hope that you feel better. Get better
Thank you
soon.
very much.
All right, thank
And thank you for bearing with me.
All right. We will call in Mr. Chris Hall. And Ronee, do you go get him, or how does? I need to go. Okay, Mr. Hall, please. welcome. No. Have a seat. Thank you for being here. So just so you know, the microphone is a little bit sensitive, so you might actually, if it is comfortable for you to take it out and hold on to it, or if you want to speak really close into it, otherwise it doesn't really pick up. Just, I'm sorry. It's sensitive in that you have to be close, yes. Anyway, so whatever's easiest for you. Anyway, so I just give you a quick how it's going to work. So you'll get 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then each of the directors will ask you one question. You'll get 2 minutes to respond, and then a 2-minute closing statement.
Fantastic.
Any questions?
Nope.
Awesome. All right, go ahead, Director Geiger.
Intro.
Sorry, intro. Yeah.
That's all right. We'll let it go. Well, hello. My name's Chris Hall. I'm a Colorado native, new to Douglas County for the last 4 years, give or take. I've lived pretty much everywhere in the state. Born in Greeley, graduated high school in Pueblo. Happy to find my way to the middle of the state, if that wasn't good. I'm horrible jokes. I'm a father, so you got to allow the dad jokes. I have 3 boys, 2 of which are at Clear Sky Elementary. One graduated last year in Texas, and he's up here now. Hopefully going to be at the movie theater. So if you see a really tall, lanky kid, that's mine. I'm really excited to be here for this opportunity. My wife's a school psychologist at Castle Rock Middle School. Last year she was at Douglas County High School, and then before that she was at Sand Creek Elementary School in Highlands Ranch. So got to know a lot of the schools around, a lot of the teachers. I also run a nonprofit for jazz education called the Colorado Jazz Ambassadors. Right now we're partnering with Rock Canyon High School, and we do all of our rehearsals and such there. But we work with a lot of the schools, mostly middle and high school, but a lot of the elementary schools have another program, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of. We work with them as well to kind of extend that and really just provide a lot more in the music education front. Beyond that, my day-to-day, I'm a software director, so I do a lot with teams globally, building software for the food chain supply. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Now, Director Geiger.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for applying and for being here today.
Yeah, thank
Kind of
you.
snowy day. Public polling over the last couple of years has shown a clear community concern that this board is too political. Mm-hmm. I'd like you to address what you think that means and what, as a board member, you might do to deal with that perception.
Yeah, great question. I actually had a little piece about this topic in my write-up. Being too political definitely takes your party, whether that be anybody on this or even someone coming into the room, taking their perspectives and pushing that agenda, whatever that happens to be. Right, wrong, and different, doesn't really matter. From my perspective, I'm not a big fan of political parties or anything like that. I want the right answer for the question, the right solution for the problem, and that by nature is going to cross all different bounds of political affiliation. In terms of being able to head that kind of thing off, Douglas County collectively beyond the board is pretty kind of politically divided. I'm very much a let's just have a good time kind of person. So I make horrible jokes. We all laugh and we try to get to what the answer could be that benefits everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Hall. Thank you so
Hello.
much for your interest in this position.
You bet.
My question is, how would you approach handling hot-button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? Feel free to use an example of a past hot-button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Sure. Depending on the audience, everything's a hot button issue, right? I'm really fond of mental health awareness, mostly because of my wife, for kids. It's a very delicate balance because you have parents who believe their kids have some kind of disability that needs to be proven, and then you have some that are in disbelief that their kid has something like that. So it's a very delicate path to walk, a lot of eggshells we have to walk on in that regard. In terms of how it's handled, you just have to really have the kids focus at the forefront of what we're trying to achieve. That's our job, right? As community members, as board members, we're trying to do the best for our kids, for the district, and give them the vehicles that enable that best outcome that we can achieve. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hall.
Hello.
Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust.
Yes.
In your opinion, as a prospective BOE member, how important is parent input, feedback in shaping the district? And you can also answer, do you have any recommendations for improving communication?
Sure. Completely agree with all of that. As a parent in the district, communication has been pretty adequate. Not too much. You can definitely overwhelm. Emails tend to come in from a lot of organizations, and it's just, I don't know if you're familiar with TLDR, too long didn't read. You get those, and most parents, especially my age group and myself, we see those and we're like, woo, we'll see the next one, and we move on. The last few emails regarding the board meeting have been enough. You get and see, okay, anything that piques my interest. I'm very busy. I don't usually have a chance to catch the board meetings. I'm also a professional musician, so communication for me in something that's brief and very valuable in that briefness is really key to how I can contribute, and not just let my wife drive all the things that happen with the kids, things like that. So clear, concise, brief, and then able to have more in-depth on those topics. Coming from a marketing background, kind of that teaser in the email going to something more broad on the website that you can get all that juicy detail from, something like that. You're welcome. Is this thing on?
All right. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
This is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Awesome question. I'm a huge proponent of leadership, just in general. I'm an Army veteran. My leadership was taken from that initially. So when I lead, it's not a, hey, go do that. That's management. I jump in and I'm like, here we go. This is my sword. This way. Prop acting. You're welcome. We talked about some of the divisiveness in Mr. Geiger's question earlier. Leadership is bringing that group together. It can be within ourselves. We can't lead together if we're not together in a direction. It doesn't mean we all have to agree, but we do need to go in the same direction together. And being a leader, whether that be solely or collectively, it's just being on the same page and knowing what our outcome is, which is to help our kiddos.
All right. So what do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role in facing that if you were to be on the board?
Oh, good question. With it being an election year, I'd say something along that line, going back to the political divisiveness. With my visibility into the mental health side of just schools in general, but specifically Douglas County, that's an ongoing challenge. And I said ongoing intentionally. It's ongoing and it's growing. The challenges that we face on that front, we don't have a lot of school psychologists available. I know that very well. And the capacity for our testing ability is very minimal. My wife is at Castle Rock Middle School starting this year. They haven't had somebody there for the last couple of years. And so not just some of those kids that move on to the next school that don't have that testing available to them during when they needed it, but now she's inherited this backlog. And how do we address that? There's a lot of different things. I don't know what the answer is right here, but the ideas I'd bring to the table. We're losing teachers, staff, just in general, to a lot of other districts that are close by. Most of it's financial, some of it's something else that might be individual, but getting to those solutions and talking to the people in the community that are our staff. What are you looking for? What will keep you here? Get that retention going. Get the new people coming in. My wife's very fond of coming from Texas with the school psychology programs down there. And I do believe the director for school psychology also is from Texas. So they're very fond of that. They tell me all the time. Like I said, I'm a Colorado native, so I push against that as much as I can. But understanding how we can grow and help from a staff perspective to fill those voids, specifically in the mental health arena, getting those kids what they need, not just in the school psychology arena, but also all the supporting staff for special ed as well. You're welcome.
What is something that you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
I'm pretty sure it'll be height. My background is very unique. I didn't go to college. I was going to be a professional musician. I joined the Army band right out of high school, did that for a while. My knees couldn't keep up, so I got out. I was a musician, went and played in Vegas. I was in the Rat Pack show for a while. There's no money there, so I found my way into computers, and now I worked my way up the chain as a director with no degree. It's pretty unique. Beyond that, I have a nonprofit. I've started a couple other companies. I have a drive and an ambition that only thing that matches it is my size. I also have really bad jokes, so humor is a big thing for me too. So there's a lot that I can bring that I don't know you all personally. I don't know what you all have, but I know what I can bring to the table, and it's quite a bit.
Thank you. Okay, so closing statement.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for a closing statement because I went into a lawyer type thing, so I was going to make a bad joke, but I decided not to. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very excited about this potentially working out and really just providing to Douglas County. Being a Colorado native, I love Colorado. I have a tattoo on my arm for it. Finding my way to Douglas County, I graduated high school in Pueblo. Pueblo County has its challenges and so on, but it was great schools there. Douglas County is very similar, and I love it here. I plan to be here until I die. So giving back, I'm very excited. My unique perspective into not just the community, but the schools and such is really going to be able to bring something that I think is missing to the board, and maybe some of the other people that come here to watch the board, the community and such. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm very excited to hopefully take this further.
Thank you so much.
You bet. You want me to leave the mic on? It was off when I got here.
It's great. Yeah, leave it on. That would be very helpful. Thanks.
No problem. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and you can either stay or
I have to go back to work.
go to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Next is Jesse Lajmadier. Hello, Mr. Lajmadier.
Good
Got
afternoon.
it? I got it?
You did. You nailed it.
Awesome.
At least I
Thank
think you did.
Thank you. So the mic is sensitive or not sensitive, depending on how you look at it. So if you'll just pull it out and talk, it'll be much easier for you.
Gotcha.
So that we can all hear you. And then I'll just give you a quick overview of how this will go. So you'll get a 2-minute opening statement, and then each of the directors will ask you a question, and you'll get about 2 minutes for each reply, and then a 2-minute closing statement at the end. Do you have any questions?
Am I allowed to use my notes?
Oh, sure, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
of course.
prefer to memorize it. There just wasn't a lot of time.
Nope, you're good. All right, whenever you're ready.
Distinguished members of the board, Madam Superintendent, I would first like to express my gratitude. I am honored to be invited here today and to be considered for this position. I worked in education as well as the private sector for the last 23 years. For 8 years, up until now, I've been a special education instructional specialist at the district level. During my tenure in this position, I've worked with over 60 schools, including high schools, elementary schools, traditional schools, charter schools, and alternative pathway schools. I'm familiar with most of the nuances and subtleties of all of them. Currently, I support 6 of our largest comprehensive high schools in DPS. In my work, I am responsible for maintaining compliance with special education law, which is IDEA and ECEA, and district policy, while maintaining relationships with my schools and teams that will allow me to coach when possible and lead when necessary. I regularly participate in collaborative school walkthroughs with other specialists, district and building admins, collaborative directors, and have been tasked with providing feedback from the special education perspective, while also gaining valuable insight into the practices of different schools that I work with. In my experience, there are 4 worlds that exist in education, all of which have 2 perspectives: the district central office world, the school team world, the student world, and the parent world. In my current position at work and in life with my family, I find myself interestingly living in all 4. I spend part of my time at the central office and much of my time in schools, advising SPED teams, building capacities with teachers and school leaders, attending contentious IEP meetings or parent meetings, or generally supporting morale wherever I am. In addition to my work, my wife of 17 years and I are blessed with an amazing 15-year-old son named Spencer, who's a freshman at Thunder Ridge. In my role, I listen to and collaboratively support building leaders, teachers, parents, students, and central office team members, which means I also work to address the concerns that they all bring up to me. I believe my experience in these worlds and the insight that I can share would help me to serve as a valuable addition to your team.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming and for applying. We appreciate your interest. Public polling has repeatedly shown a community concern regarding this board being, quote, too political. I'd like you to address what you think that might mean and how, as a board member, you might address that concern.
I think life in the public eye is going to be political no matter what, especially in the society that we live in right now. When it comes down to it, I think there is a way to explain certain things and a way to talk to people that you can help explain your thoughts on a matter without diving into one polarizing category or another, if that makes sense. Really taking the time to have a conversation with somebody, treating them as an individual with thoughts and feelings, and also being able to express yourself in a way that conveys your thoughts and feelings in a manner that communicates that you care about them as a person as well. I've also had, in my experience, like the necessity to be very, very, very careful about what I say and when I say it and who I say it to. It's just part of the game in my experience. So you have to know how to navigate it, and I've had some practice doing that.
Good afternoon. Again, thanks for your interest. My question is, how would you approach handling hot button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? Feel free to use an example of a past hot button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
So that's really, to me, like the crux of it, right? The basis for what a board does and the main difficulty. As I was saying, there is a way to explain these things. And when it comes to hot button topics, it's very easy to be polarizing or find yourself on one side or the other, even if that's not where you intended to place yourself. In my experience, there are many solutions to a given problem or a given issue or a given hot button topic. And for me, it's easier to narrow down or eliminate paths that are not correct. And for me, I try to base everything that I do in love, and I approach it from a compassionate side. And so if there is a path or a way forward that doesn't include me being based in love and compassion, it's not the right path for me to take. I've also learned that sometimes explaining the why is more important than explaining a policy itself. I've had lots of practice explaining policy, and I will tell you, like, the way that I get the best results, the most traction to build better relationships with people is explaining the thought process that went into making a decision, both sides, how it was talked about, how it was discussed, the passion that went into it, and helping people understand how that decision was arrived at.
Hi, Jeff.
Jesse.
Jesse, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I just didn't want to say the last name.
Trust me neither. Took me to third grade to learn how to spell it.
Maiden names. So anyway, good afternoon. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective BOE member, school board member, how important is parent input, feedback in shaping the district? And you can give us some recommendations for improving communication.
It's crucial, as is every aspect of education, in my opinion. The way that parents are helpful, the end is for the students, right? Positive student outcomes. That's what we're about. The way that I see parent relationships is a partnership in between school and home for us to accomplish the same goal for their students. I've had lots of practice. It's pretty much my job to go into IEP meetings or parent meetings that are often contentious and to bridge the gap between the district, between the school team, and between the parents to help understand on both sides or build capacities on both sides and come to agreements and understandings that are based in policy and based on the law, but also based on compassion and the outcome for their student. Helping them understand what we are working to do with their students, how we're doing that, and how they can support us in doing that. But it all starts with hearing their concern, listening to them, knowing that they understand their student better than I ever will. I know policy, I know the law, they know their student. And so I listen and say, okay, we have a common ground here we can start with. Let's work towards a solution that works for all of us.
Hi, Jesse. Hi. All right, so this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
My leadership style is more of a coaching. I like to come alongside people and guide and also inform and build capacities. That's pretty much my job right now. And yeah, I consider myself okay at it. In terms of helping people understand, like I said, I have to navigate the law, I have to navigate district policy in a district that maintains school autonomy, which means that I am living in between two worlds and helping marry those two worlds or reconcile those two worlds with each other. And it starts with building relationships. It starts with establishing trust. For me, I'm very good at building relationships and establishing trust. I also will often go the extra mile for people and go out of my way to show them that I care about them as people. And that's more important to me. That helps build trust. And everything from what I do to what I say to even the clothes that I wear are meant to inspire trust above everything else, so that they can trust that they can reach out to me when they need to instead of after they needed to, and to be proactive on the front end, help explain certain things to them in such a way that is meaningful and helpful to them, but also to the situation, while respecting the autonomy of the building. It's not an easy thing to do. But as far as being the leader, I've had to act as director designee in a couple of IEP meetings. It is what it is. I try to do a lot of coaching on the front end, a lot of pre-meeting to not put the school team and not put myself in that position, to be truthful. But there are times when it has to be done, and I don't shy away from the responsibility.
Thank you. What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role to be within that if you were to be on the board?
It's a really good question. There are so many challenges I can identify. There's a couple of challenges I know we face that are not just related to the district, but are national challenges. One of my biggest concern is a teacher shortage, that we have great professionals that are fleeing the profession, not just leaving, but they're completely leaving the profession. And I've watched these individuals, I've helped coach these individuals, and it breaks my heart when I see good teachers stop teaching, because I know that we need quality educators in front of our kids to produce the positive outcomes that we need. And the more of them that we lose, the worst chance that we have at achieving that outcome. So that's one of my biggest concerns. The interesting thing for me is that I work with teachers. I hear their concerns. I listen to their concerns all the time. I talk to them. They confide in me even. And I work at the district level to advocate on their behalf so that we can keep them, keep the quality people that we have. That's one of my biggest concerns. And there's a lot that goes into that, but in terms of the things that worry me as a parent and as an educator, that's at the top of my list.
Last question. What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
Wow, that's that's a loaded question. You're asking me to talk about you. I think everybody brings unique talents to the board, and we can supplement and we can complement each other. I think what I can bring to the table is my experience as a high school teacher, as a special education teacher. I can also bring to the table my experience working at the district level, understanding the nuances of working in a large bureaucratical district and understanding the complexities of all that and how it works. I've been on several committees that I can share experience with. Like I said, I've worked with charter schools. I've been a part of portfolio meetings where they're up for renewal and we're looking at all of that. But I've also worked on the teacher level. I've worked at so many varying levels in education. I feel like there are different experiences I can take from all of them that might individually complement this team when necessary. But it's the most important thing to me, and please hear my heart here. I just want to help. So however I can be of assistance, whatever knowledge I have might help contextually in that situation. That's my goal. That's my purpose in life. That's all I want. So I have a ton of knowledge. I can access it when I need to, but I also know when to keep my mouth shut.
Great, thank you. So, closing statement.
All right, please forgive me. I have to open up my phone again. Again, thank you for inviting me here today. I'm humbled to be considered for service. I've been to board meetings in multiple roles, and I understand the heavy burden that leadership bears. I know in making decisions and policies, there are difficult conversations and choices that must be made with sobering thoughtfulness. In closing, I'd like to share that because of my role, I have a lot of practice explaining laws, policies, details, processes, and nuances to everyone I work with in some capacity or another. Including school teams and parents, I found that explaining why is more important to explain the policy itself, like I mentioned earlier. For that reason, I am careful to remain compassionate, empathetic, and patient as I help individuals understand what they need to understand, how they need to understand it. I've been told on multiple occasions that I am a calming, soothing presence in contentious meetings and have been publicly recognized for my service amongst building and district leaders. While I am proud of this, I don't say this to sound arrogant. In fact, I often have difficulty talking about myself or even accepting such high appraisal, but I understand it's somewhat of the purpose of me being here right now. I say this because my passion is helping, as I mentioned, and showing love to everybody that I encounter. It's one of the main ways that I derive joy out of this life. If I'm able to help even a little or make someone's day just a little bit better or make somebody smile, I'm happy. I believe if chosen for this position, there's much that I can bring to the table in order to serve the district and your team. Thank you so much for your time. It's been my pleasure to speak with you all, and I wish you well in the decision you face.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time and interest. Appreciate it. You're more than welcome to stay, or if you need to go back to something else, that would be fine too. And then I think Mr. Tim Moore is next.
Do you have a good night Monday?
Good afternoon. Yes, have a seat. This is Mr. Moore.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for being here today. So you are more than welcome to either hold the microphone out if it's more comfortable. Otherwise, you kind of need to speak pretty closely for everyone to be able to hear you. So whatever's more comfortable.
Okay.
And I'm just going
How's
to give you
that?
a quick overview of how it's going to work. We'll give you 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then each of the directors will ask you a question in which you will have about a 2-minute reply, and then a closing statement of 2 minutes as well.
You got it.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Awesome. All right, whenever you're ready.
Well, first, thanks for everybody the opportunity to meet you all here today. I've lived in Douglas County since 1989. Proudly raised my 2 daughters. They both graduated Thunder Ridge High School and spent their entire career in Douglas County schools. I'm really just a regular dad with a passion for safety and serving our community. I did serve as a sheriff's deputy for 30 years. I worked my way up from the bottom to almost the top. I was very fortunate in that area, but I learned everything, things about every area of operations and administration, running a major organization. And I earned the final rank of chief deputy before I left in 2021. But I'm most proud of the lessons I learned serving on several community boards over the last 20 years. I understand how much work goes into helping the vulnerable, people in our community, especially kids and people with intellectual disabilities and victims of family violence and those suffering with mental illness. I know that experience is highly applicable to this Board of Education and what you all do here. My direct involvement with the school district dates back 24 years when I became the supervisor of the school resource officer program shortly after the Columbine shootings. At the same time, I became the sheriff's media spokesperson and did 5 years worth of media relations work. Together, during those years, we worked hard to investigate many threats and ensure we communicated properly with students and families, which was very important. Since that time, I've collaborated on many, and I would say dozens of safety and security efforts with the school district. I've done things like testify in front of the legislature on school safety and emergency response bill, hosted many joint security and administration trainings to work on things like mandatory reporting, emergency response, school threat response. Served on the school district safety committee, developed policies, and I worked with the school district to develop emergency response policies for all the high schools and middle schools, and how we would handle evacuations and reunification. I developed the initial law enforcement policies for the school marshal program that the superintendent created after the shooting in Sandy Hook in 2012. And I assisted the security director on major updates to the radio communication procedures that are probably, I think, still in place today. And finally, I was the incident commander and handled all the reunification after the STEM school shooting in Highlands Ranch. But bottom line, I'm just a guy who loves this community, loves our school district, and I feel strongly about serving it with you guys. So.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for being here and for your interest in this position and your past service to our county.
Thank you, sir.
One of the public polling has shown that one of the consistent criticisms of the Board of Education is that it is, quote, too political. I would like you to comment on what you think that may mean and what, as a board member, you might do to work on that perception.
Well, that's a fabulous question. I do see the concerns about it being too political. I mean, I know it's, in theory, supposed to be a nonpartisan group of people who all bring something different to the table to make a strong team to do what's in the best interest of our community. This is one of the most upper middle class, highly educated communities in the nation. And I think the community expects a lot from the school board. And there's probably many things that I still need to obviously learn about the nuts and bolts of what you're expected to do. However, I think that both political parties have probably put a higher emphasis on the partisanship of the school board to a detriment of everybody in our community. And I think in some ways it's embarrassed the family becoming so hyper-political when it really should just be good people who come together and want to leave it a little bit better than they found it and hopefully do what's right for the right reasons. To me, what would I do to make it better? I would simply just try to do what I've tried to do every day of my entire life, and sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But that is to just try to do what's right for the right reasons. Try to leave politics out of it. Try to look at the bigger picture, what's in the best interests of our families and children, and together make strong decisions that work for them in this community, and keep that in mind, and not necessarily my personal political ideals or somebody else's personal political ideals. Even though we are here to represent groups of people who I know elected you folks, right, on their behalf to make decisions. That said, you still have to do what's right for the right reasons, and you have to factor out some of the garbage that goes in with that.
Hi, Mr. Moore. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
How would you approach handling hot-button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? Feel free to use an example of a past hot-button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. First and foremost, I think that hot button issues, some of them are crystal clear. You know when you're walking in that you're hitting a hot button issue, and sometimes they they come out of the blue. But everything requires transparency, open communication, and a lot of dialogue so that people understand. First of all, I guess we as the board understand what their expectations are, what they want. And then we spend a fair amount of time back and forth collaborating so everybody's on the same page and we can make proper decisions. It's easy to talk about what we learned during the COVID pandemic and the decisions that were made about mask mandates and school closures. And I know that that's something that, our generation of adults will probably never forget what we learned, what we thought was true, what we found out wasn't true, lessons that we wouldn't do again, things we might do differently. But I think that is one where, in hindsight, if I had a say in some of those decisions, I would think maybe we look at those things a little bit differently. We try to find evidence of exactly factually what's the right thing instead of taking elected officials' word for it on everything. Because we've learned that not all elected officials were very educated on the issues either. But that said, open communication, transparency, talking about it, and explaining ourselves and the decisions that we make and why we make the decisions we make, I think go a long way to diffuse people's assumptions when it's something that's touchy. Just have to be smart about it and you have to communicate. If you don't do that, you're gonna make people mad.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective board member, how important is parent input, feedback in shaping this district? And if you have some recommendations for improving communication, please say. Thank you.
I think it's pivotal. I think it would be, well, first of all, this group has a responsibility to do what's in the best interest of the students and their families, first and foremost, before anything else. So if you don't consider what parents and families find important in the decisions that we make, I mean, clearly there are some core guidelines of things that a school district is supposed to do no matter what, right? Bring those kids to school every day, send them home safe every day, give them the basic nuts and bolts to go out into the world and move on to all the next levels of things that we know they're expected to do. But how we do that is usually where the debate comes in. And if we don't listen to the parents in our community, then we're making a huge mistake of at least not making them feel like they matter. And they do matter. I mean, I'm a parent. My two kids graduated from this school district. I never had a controversy. I never had a need to go to the principal or a school and complain about something I didn't think was right. But my kids were also older when COVID happened. Now, they're in college. One's already graduated college and one's still there. But they did live through that experience, and I might have had a need to come talk to the school board about the closures or things of that nature where I thought, kids were impacted by that. But that said, I think those relationships matter. I mean, and quite frankly, I think relationships are the glue that holds everything together. If you value the relationships with your families, just like you guys value the relationships with your administration and your teachers, you can solve a lot of problems and people will accept a lot of things they may not agree with because you communicated and you listened to what they had to say. And, the only thing I would offer is a way to do improvement is just don't ever stop listening to what the parents have to say. I mean, I know it's impossible to apply every idea or every piece of input groups of parents will have, and some of it may not make any sense. I mean, there are people out there who offer guidance that is bad. It's just the truth. But you guys are smart. This group is smart, and you can figure out the difference between good advice and bad advice, or good input and bad input. And I can't really tell you how to do that. It's just something that you learn how to do. You have to do it. But you do need to listen. You do need to entertain public comment, as painful as it can be, as late as meetings can sometimes go. It's necessary. It's just a fact of the world we live in today. People want to be heard, especially when they elect you to represent them.
Thank you.
Hi, Tim.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Okay. I consider my leadership style mostly collaborative. I think there's a time and a place to be a directive type leader. Usually that's in a time of crisis, when you need to do something like that, where it's, hey, this is what we're doing and how we're going to do it, now let's go. But most of the time, when the wheels haven't fallen off, we need to be collaborative and get people's input and try to work together. It's a team. That the teams, usually are the ones who have the most success when they work together to solve a problem. And so I'm a huge believer in, working together. And so collaborative is my style. I really like when people get along and work together. But I also understand there's a time and a place that can't work, where you have to stand up for a principle or an idea or something you feel strongly about. But like most things in life, it's about how you do it, not necessarily what you do, it's how you do it. And so if you value the relationships and you care about the people that you're working with and you respect each other, treat each other that way, you can usually have a difference of opinion and still be okay. So as much as I like to collaborate, sometimes that's impossible, but that's what I would do most of the time. And when it comes to how I would help the board, my experience in public safety and all the different boards of directors that I've sat on for several different nonprofits or not-for-profit organizations, everything's about teamwork. Everything's about consensus if you can get there. You can't always get there. Sometimes it's, one vote tipping the scale one way or the other. But once that happens, you have to live with it, and then you have to speak with one voice and move forward together, even if you disagree with the outcome. Because everybody is looking at this group for direction and where are we going to take things. And you have to be consistent, and you have to be one voice, one team, I believe. And so I would bring that attitude to the table.
What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has coming in the next year or two? And what do you see your role would be if you sat on this board?
Having lived in the school district since 1989 and, raised my kids here for K through 12, I have always seen funding as a significant concern of the district and also the people who live in the county. I can tell you firsthand that, every community has, most people don't understand how schools are funded. And they look around and they say, hey, we're the most affluent, highly educated county in the, in the state and one of the most in the nation. We should have plenty of money. Why do you need more money? They don't understand that it's a Robin Hood approach that the state has of take from the rich, give to the poor, kind of equal things out. And that when you have a growing, busy school district, even though you're an upper middle class Douglas County, you may not have the funding you need for all the things that your community expects. So it's an uphill battle to educate the community on those needs as they change. And that's something that has to be done all the time. But I do think that is the most significant challenge we face today and are going to continue to face, because I also know that, parts of the community are aging. And so you have parts of Douglas County that, have school buildings that are really old, and maybe they don't have the same enrollment they did 10, 12, 5 years ago. And maybe they're underpopulated, and then you have a school literally a mile away that's overpopulated. Or there are parts of the community that are growing in parts of the county that are, Sterling Ranch, Castle Pines, the Canyons area, growing like wildfire, and they're going to for the next decade. And those people are going to want neighborhood schools just like the rest of the county has. And it's like, how do you fund that? How do you pay for that? Do you pay for that? Who pays for that? Does the developer have any involvement? Who else can we partner with to help make those things happen so that we can afford it? And how do we educate the community on how expensive it is to open a school and how much it takes to run one every year? So I think that's the biggest concern I would have, the biggest, I think, a huge priority. I think the district has done a fabulous job educating the community over the last few years. I know that A and B did not pass 2 years ago, or a year ago, and it passed this year. A did. 5A passed. And I know that there was a need for 5B, and there's a lot of people out there who didn't vote for 5B, so it didn't pass. And then there's probably still a need for 5B, even though it didn't pass. And there's going to be a lot of discussion about, well, what do we do now? Because we have, funding for one half of what we need and no funding for the other half of what we need. Now, what do we do? And that's going to be a challenge. But what I would offer this group is, to buckle down with you, work hard on whatever strategy or effort we decided was going to be the priority, and how we, message that to the community, how we sell it, so to speak. It's really what we have to do is educate and explain to people, and it's, sales pitch. Sadly, that's kind of what it turns out to be. But if that's what we decide as a group we need to do, then we do. And if we decided a group, hey, it's bad timing, the economy's really bad, and it's not a good idea, I'm on board with that too. It's going to be what we decide as a team. And I'm going to buckle down and help do that. Use every bit of influence or connections I have in the community and what I've developed over my 30 years working here to leverage that.
Last question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
Oh, boy. I'm looking around going, guys, you guys are heavy hitters. I'm not sure I offer anything different. I will say that I hope I'm the only guy who's been in public safety here. And so I do have a strong background in safety and security. I have, as I spoke about in my opening, spent a lot of time in my assignments working with the school district on various safety and security initiatives, crises, issues, problems, challenges. Got to know all the superintendents all the way back to Superintendent Christensen and Dr. Fagan and Dr. Tucker, and Superintendent Kane when she was the interim superintendent before that. And it takes a village to do what the school district does safely, and to take those kids into school every day, bring them home safe every day. I used to pray every single day that nothing bad ever happened to our community. I lived through, I was a sheriff's deputy when Columbine happened. I was a first responder and helped deal with the tactical entry at Arapahoe High School. Like I said, I was responsible for the reunification after STEM, which I had never done. I mean, that was a fly by the seat of your pants, learn it right now. But from a success standpoint, we had every kid reunified with their parent by 6 o'clock that night. And I was very proud, not that I did it, but the group of people that I had together with the community and the parents, and how everybody responded in the school district and the staff that came that helped us. Together, we got something really big done, and it looked pretty good at the end of the day. So I think I bring a set of experiences and skills with safety and security and managing, a large budget. I mean, I've never managed a $900 million budget, but I have managed a $70 million budget at the sheriff's office. And so I have some experience understanding the different funding sources and the rules that go into managing different funding sources. So I believe I would bring a skill set there that would be very helpful. I mean, I'm never going to be accused of being the smartest guy in the room, but I'll work my butt off to try to leave it better than I found it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now just your closing statement.
Well, thank you guys for this whole process. I know this is a lot of work. I really do understand that. You know, with me, guys, you just get a loyal father and a guy who sincerely cares about the community and its kids. I hope I've demonstrated that in my entire adult life. I value leaders with good character, and I value relationships. And as I know very well, those are the glue that holds everything together, especially in times of challenge. I have a passion for safety and security, as I talked about, mental health, protecting schools, and serving the needs of the vulnerable and the underserved in our community. I have a long history of collaborations in improving processes, solving problems, managing policies. And I don't think there are many candidates that have that particular experience when it comes to public safety or safety and security. But I also offer significant experience in emergency management, personnel, human resources, the Colorado Open Records Act, the Criminal Justice Records Act, media relations, and like I said, school safety, which is really my passion. I want you to know I appreciate the hard work you all do on behalf of our young people and the families and our teachers. And I appreciate the opportunity to work side by side with you if I get that opportunity on common goals. And I really just want to work together with a group who wants to do the right thing for the right reasons. That's all I care about. That's it.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks for your interest and thanks for being here. You're more than welcome to stay or go, whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know you'll pick good people, so if
Yes,
you don't
thank-
pick me, I get it.
Next, we have Miss Jenna Person. Hello, Miss Person.
Hi.
You can have a seat there. And just so you know, the microphone's a little bit, it's just easiest to either hold it or get close to it,
Okay.
whichever's easiest for you.
Get to know it well?
Yes, there you go,
All
just so
right.
we can hear you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'll just give you a quick overview of how it will work. You'll start with a 2-minute opening statement. Then each of the directors will ask you a question, and you're allowed about 2 minutes for each response, and then a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay.
Any questions?
I don't think so. Can you hear
Awesome.
me okay? Am I close enough? Now I'm nervous about the microphone.
I think you're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for selecting me as a candidate for the director of District B and giving me the opportunity to express my desire to serve Douglas County. I'd like to open by sharing not why I should be the candidate, but by why I want to be. So since moving to Colorado in 1998, I have been a student, a parent, and a teacher. And so I've experienced firsthand the challenges that our schools have faced in that time period. It's clear to me that a renewed focus on supporting our students and teachers and the parents and community is vital to our success. While I no longer teach, my dedication remains unwavering in championing policies that prioritize student needs and well-being. Should I have the privilege to serve on the school board, I will prioritize fiscal responsibility, ensuring our budget aligns with our essential objectives. Directing resources into our schools is paramount, providing the necessary supplies and conducive environment for learning and growth. Additionally, I will continue to support the voters of Douglas County in advocating for competitive wages that truly reflect the invaluable work our teachers and staff do. Rebuilding trust among students, parents, and educators is imperative, and I look forward to collaborating with you as fellow board members as we look for ways to do that. So I'm here today with a commitment to ensure that Douglas County School District is one of excellence. I believe in public education, and I'm prepared to work towards every student having access to the resources, support, and quality education they deserve.
Thank you very much for coming. My name is Brad Geiger. One of the things that has been consistently shown by public polling is concern that this board is, quote, too political. I'd like you to address what you think they mean by that and what you might do as a board of director to address that concern.
Sure. I think that perception comes from a long time in Douglas County of us being viewed as a very conservative district. And while that is true, that a lot of that came to a head in recent years with the board. And I think there's a lot of people who view some of the outside political money that came in with the different election cycles as being a little bit of an issue, because I think ideally all of us who have grown up here want to see a homegrown board and people who are receiving support from other people who live here. I would say what I would do to support that is the same thing that I did in the classroom as a teacher, and I would do my best to not make my political ideas known, that you kind of have to play the devil's advocate of considering all the sides and all of the different options and not always letting what you would do if you were, say, president of the United States guide what you would do as a board member of Douglas County. And so just trying to really maintain that separation of politics and what's best for students.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your interest in the position. So how would you approach handling hot button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? And feel free to use an example of a past hot button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Okay. I think I would deal with the hot button issues by, again, trying to really step back and remove my own opinions and ideas to some extent, right? For example, I think masking was a hot button issue for a lot of people during COVID, and that's one of those where you have to look at all sides. What I might think is best for me or my family or whatever is not always what's best for everybody. And so having to consider all of the different opinions and considerations and hearing everybody, I think there's a lot of value in getting to know your audience and learning what they care about. And then also making sure that even if whatever decision is going to transpire might not be the popular decision or the one that everybody wants, that they know that their opinions have been valued. And so I think that's what I would do in that instance as far as hot button issues, to recognize that it is a hot button issue and tell people that I understand obviously why they feel the way they do, even if I don't agree with it necessarily. Again, like the political, I wouldn't probably tell them I didn't agree with it, but making it clear that at the end of the day, this position is really about taking care of students and teachers.
Hello, Jenna. Hi. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, As a prospective board member, how important is parent input and feedback in shaping the district? And if you have any recommendations for improving communication, please share.
Sure. I mean, obviously, I think parent input is always important. I'm a parent myself, so I can't tell you otherwise, right? But I also think that we have to find a balance between giving parents all of the input and relying on the professionals we have in this district to do what they do best. And so I would look for ways to try and increase that two-way communication between parents and schools, between parents and the school board, between parents and the entire district. Trying to offer them more ways to share their input besides just board meetings or surveys. I will say, as a parent myself, you know, I get some of the surveys, and for example, the ones about the new benchmark reading program. And while I would love to offer feedback, I can't because I don't know enough about the program. And I'm a former teacher. So I think looking for ways to really make sure that when we're asking for that feedback, we're also giving them the information they need to provide us feedback. And then I think if we can do that, if we can really make that two-way street more like a highway instead of like a little side street with a roundabout sometimes, that we could improve all of it.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, thanks for being here. So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Sure. I would like to say that my leadership style is collaborative. I like to take the lead. I don't have a problem doing that, but I'm also very cognizant of where my own weaknesses are. And so I think a big part of sharing leadership is knowing where everyone's strengths and weaknesses lie and building teams that rely on that. That if there's something I feel really strongly about or that I might be really good at, like communication, that's kind of what I do now, that maybe I would try to take some points on that. But if there was something that maybe I wasn't as strong in, then who do we have? How do we use the resources we have to work together and build the best team?
All right. What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has coming in the next year or two? And what do you see your role, what would it be if you were on the board?
Sure. I think the elephant in the room is budget, right? We all know that we've, for the past 2 years, not been able to pass the bond portion of, or the mill levy, the building portion of the budget. And that's something that we are going to have to prioritize because we don't have enough schools for all of the residents of Douglas County. We have schools that are old and need work. Like, we have to update electronics. So I think that is going to be our biggest issue, and I would like to work to find ways to communicate better with our community about how that benefits them long term. I think, in my opinion, the kind of reasons and why we maybe haven't managed to pass that portion of things is that while we all understand that teachers are underpaid and undervalued, we don't necessarily understand what problems might exist in the schools, especially if a lot of our community members don't have students in these schools anymore. And so that would kind of be my focus, is how do we present to the community that this is not just an investment in students, but an investment in Douglas County as a whole.
All right, last question. What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
I don't know that I can offer you anything unique. I'll be completely honest, right? Like, there's plenty of us here who are parents and former teachers and who've grown up here, and that's the thing. But I do think that in some ways, you know, that's not necessarily a problem either, that is one more person who understands the county, who understands the background of teachers, who understands what students are going through these days, and can just bring new ideas or different ideas from what already exists. And so, while I'd love to tell you that I'm obviously the most unique person here, I don't know that I can tell you that, but I can tell you that I'm eager to to offer what I can.
Great, thank you. So whenever you're ready, you can do your closing statement.
Okay. So I began my interview by telling you why I wanted to be here, but now I'm going to tell you why you should pick me. And so obviously, as a former teacher, I have a background in education, but I also have journeyed through diverse professional roles, and those have given me a unique advantage point, aligning my background in education with my knack for communication. While my recent roles have steered me away from the classroom in some ways, you never really stop being a student, and so I have used my time outside of the classroom to gain an understanding of a more effective communication and how we train and teach people things, the essentials of engaging with diverse audiences, and other business critical skills that just make me more prepared to serve on the board than I would have been otherwise. My commitment to education hasn't wavered, it's evolved. It's evolved from the classroom to the boardroom, and I'm aiming to harness my skills to benefit every student and teacher and parent and stakeholder. I'm dedicated to ensuring that Douglas County School District continues to be one of educational excellence so that my children and their children and however many children from there on out get the same thing I did. So with that said, thank you for your consideration. I'm eager and ready to serve.
Thank you so much for being here and for your interest. You're
Thank
more than
you.
welcome to stay or whatever you need to do.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. And then next, I have Mr. David Schoenfeld. Hello, Mr. Schoenfeld.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so just so you know, the microphone likes it when you're close, so you can either take
How's
it
that?
out. Yeah,
Good.
you can either take it out if that's more comfortable for you, or if you want to lean in, that's fine too, whatever's more comfortable. I'll just give you a quick overview of how this is going to work. We'll start you with a 2-minute opening statement or thereabouts, and then each one of the directors will ask you a question in which you will be allowed about a 2-minute response time and then a closing 2-minute statement. Any questions?
No, sounds great.
Awesome, thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to come before you today. It's a lifelong commitment to education and a firm belief around the impact, the long-term impact it has in our community. I come with the background of building great companies, specializing in software and technology. That's given me a unique perspective on the challenges and opportunities facing our education system throughout my career. I've hired a lot of folks. I know the impact a quality education can have on people, and by extension, what that does for our community. I think a strong and innovative school district is a cornerstone of the society, of our community. I'm a parent of 3, 2 enrolled in the district. 1 will start next year. Long-term resident of Douglas County. I'm fully invested in the success of the district and the educational journey of both my children and the district's children. Combined, my wife and I have 3 bachelors, 2 masters, and 1 doctorate. 5 of those are hers. So needless to say, education's very serious in our house. It's a personal connection to education that motivates my interest in ensuring that both my students, every student in Douglas County has access to a world-class education. regardless of their background or circumstances. If appointed, my focus would be on driving an environment that encourages not only academic excellence, but access to a curriculum that prepares students to compete and win in a high-tech global economy, embraces diversity of background, experiences, different thoughts, and nurtures the development of each student. I'm committed to working with parents and teachers, administrators, and the broader community just to create policies that reflect the needs and aspirations of the district. I believe our educational institutions evolve to prepare our students for the challenges and opportunities of the future. I bring a very forward-looking, forward-thinking approach to the table that integrates technology, critical thinking, and adapting the curriculum to meet the needs of a globalized, global knowledge-based economy. I believe I could be quite helpful as a partner dedicated to the success of every student in the Douglas County School District, working together towards a culture of excellence that would not only shape the students, but contribute to the strength of the community. I'm eager to collaborate and drawing on everyone's strength here to ensure that the district remains best in class in both education and innovation. Yeah, thanks for your consideration.
First of all, thank you very much for applying and for your interest in this district.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Public polling over the last few years has shown a concern that the public believes this board is, quote, too political. I'd like you to address what you think that may mean and what, as a board member, you might do to address that concern.
Yeah, I personally, I lead a lot of big teams. I've worked for companies large and small, and so I tend to not wade into politics. I think if the North Star is always doing what's best for the students, from access to education, to the curriculum, to being incredibly responsible with the budget, and having the safest environment for the students, I think if you can make great decisions, again, with the interest of the students in mind around those things, safety, curriculum, budget, I think that the politics could take maybe a step back.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. How would you approach handling hot button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for our students? Feel free to use an example of a past hot button issue that the board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's around what is in the best interest of the student. The teams that I lead generally are open to a lot of ideas, and the best idea should win. It's not an ideological perspective. I think you have to balance what the best the district can afford with what the best plans are and do what's best for the student. And not just the student, but the teachers and the faculty and the administrators as well. And what's best for the community. Other than kind of the turnover on the board, those types of issues where that's the only hot button issue I would know, and I don't really have a perspective on that. I think the board's fully capable of governing themselves to get the best members and the best people and do what's best for the board to manage the district in the best way.
Good afternoon. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective board member, how important is parent input feedback in shaping the district? And if you have a recommendation for improving communication, feel free to share.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly critical, right, to have both the buy-in from the parents on how the money's being spent, what the curriculum is. I really enjoyed participating in this Leaders of Douglas County School District program. I think more programs like that or expanding those programs would be helpful. You get a nice cross-section of parents, I think, across the district, both charter schools, high schools, elementary schools, that are able to come and just learn more about the district, learn more about the kind of the future investments. I got to go and see the different buildings, and so I felt that was a great program. Probably more programs like that. So there's a combination of great athletic programs that get parents involved. And so just more things around getting parents excited about what the district is doing, I think is, pretty critical to getting their input and buy-in on, how the district's being run.
All right, hi, David.
Hi.
So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Yeah, I try to be, quite thoughtful and listen to all perspectives. And again, I'm a firm believer in the best idea winning. I lead generally teams of younger people. I work for, high technology startups, and I'm on the executive teams. And so I build these teams from scratch. So I've got a lot of experience in just letting those teams. I like to kind of set the destination and let people figure out kind of what the best journey is to get there with guidance and guardrails, and to share what I've learned in different potential mistakes that I've made throughout my career or things to consider. And so I just try to bring a lot of critical thinking and provide just the best guidance and a lot of listening.
All right. What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role would be if you were on the board?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge probably for the county in general is high growth. There are a lot of people moving. There are a lot of houses getting built. There are a lot of businesses coming. And so I think long term, we want to have a district that's best in class, that makes people want to move here. I mean, that helps out the community from a tax perspective. All our house values go up. It's a really good, I think if you think about a flywheel, it does start with the school district making the county very attractive and attracting the right types of businesses and just creating lots of revenue that the district gets to then reinvest. And then ultimately there's businesses here that the students can come back and invest in and want to live here and have their kids go to DCDS. So I do think managing the growth in terms of how do we have the students get the right attention? I know that just personally at my kids' school, there's been a lot of turnover, and so making sure that we're paying teachers the right amount and we're attracting good talent and keeping the student to teacher ratio that's optimal, and then building new schools and supporting them and keeping safe environments, using the best technology. I think those are all kind of major macro challenges of the district over the next couple of years.
All right, last question. What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
Yeah, I'm not an educator other than teaching Business 101 to the college graduates that I hire. But I do have a lot of business background. I've been on boards before. I have a lot of experience just managing budgets and making great decisions with the best interests of either the organization or the district in mind. I can be quite helpful on hiring, and being part of just bringing other administrators in or interviews and things like that. I have a lot of experience. I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people in my career. Very forward-thinking from a technology perspective, and so whether that's the use of AI, whether that's the use of different technologies that the district might want to look at, can be quite helpful there also, I think.
Thanks. All right, thank you. So we'll give you a time for your closing statement.
Sure. So again, thanks for having me here. I'm just here with a sense of purpose and commitment to the future of the education in Douglas County School District. The community is invested in me, invested in my children, so I'm happy to reciprocate and bring my skills, passion, and dedication to the board. I definitely understand the weight of responsibility that comes with serving on the board. I can commit to being a tireless advocate for the students and parents and teachers and administrators who really make up the core of the district. My goal is just to contribute in a lasting, meaningful way to the efforts that are needed to elevate our schools and the students. I believe in communication, transparency, embracing different perspectives, and continue to build a strong, high-performing, best-in-class district. I know the value of working on a great team and would look forward to working with all of you to address the challenges and all the opportunities ahead of the district. As my role as a parent and professional and community member, I've seen the transformative power of education. I'm committed to ensuring every teacher, every child in the district has the tools and resources that they need to succeed. Leadership's about listening, so while serving on the board, I'll be dedicated and responsive representative for the district. And then, I'm thankful to be considered for the position. I'm excited about the prospect of contributing in whatever way, whether it's on the board or volunteering or the leaders of Douglas County. Definitely want to stay involved and look forward to the continued growth and success of the district as well. So.
Well, thank you so much for your interest and for being here. We really appreciate it. Sure. You're more than welcome to stay, or if you have somewhere to be, that's okay too.
Yeah, I got to pick up the kids. So.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care.
I think next is Mr. Matt Smith. Matthew, sorry.
I know.
Hello, Mr. Smith.
Hello,
Thank
good
you
afternoon.
Thank you for being here. Just an FYI, the microphone is sensitive or not, depending how you look at it. You can either take it out and hold it or lean in, whatever's most convenient for you. Totally
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
Can you guys
And-
hear me? Is that good?
We're good, yeah. You have a loud voice, so that's good. All right, so just a quick overview. You'll get a 2-minute opening statement, and then each director will ask you a question, which will be allowed about a 2-minute response, and then a 2-minute closing statement. Any questions?
Nope, sounds good.
Awesome, whenever you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, board directors, superintendent, cabinet members, and fellow citizens of Douglas County. My name is Matthew Smith. As a devoted father, military veteran, IT leader, and active member of our community, I'm excited about the opportunity to serve with the Douglas County School District. As the father of a 6th grader, I have a personal interest in the success of this district. I will use this as my motivation and guidepost when making decisions that are in the best interest of the district, community, and most importantly, the children. The success of this district directly impacts the success of my child and all the students within the district. I've spent hours in this very room as a community member, sitting in those seats, patiently awaiting to engage in public discourse. Sacrificing numerous evenings with my son, foregoing dinners and his activities, I was here participating in the democratic process, ensuring my voice was heard, sometimes with a touch of humor. Motivated by a desire to be the change I wish to see, I have stepped forward to fill this board vacancy. My background, particularly in law enforcement and information technology, has given me a wide breadth of skills that will aid me in providing creative problem solving to complex problems. My active participation in public service and my previous board experience with the Fraternal Order of Police have sharpened my abilities in teamwork, problem solving, and emphasizing community safety and engagement. I am here today to make a promise. To community members, I will be a steward of your trust and tax dollars, and I will evaluate my decisions through a fiscally conservative lens. To parents, you are of the utmost importance, and your partnership with the district is invaluable. To teachers and staff, I will be fair and always appreciate your dedication to our children. To the students, I look forward to playing a part in preparing you for the future. To the current board members, I will be collaborative and an active participant in the discussion. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good afternoon, pushing evening.
Right,
Mr.
yeah.
Smith. Thank you very much for your interest, your continued involvement with the district. Public polling has indicated that there is a concern in the district that this board is quote-unquote too political. I would like to know what you think is a problem they mean by that, and what you as a board member might do to address that perception.
Sure. Yeah, personally, I think oftentimes values can be confused with politics, and so I think there are differing values and viewpoints on the board, and I think that's a very healthy thing for the community. I don't necessarily see an overly political, board in front of me here. I see people with varying viewpoints and differences that come together oftentimes and come up with decisions to complex problems. But I think at times, some of that's conflated out in the public, right? They see if somebody, wants to be fiscally conservative, let's say, because I just used that term in my speech here, that can be viewed as political, right? A couple things because of the words, but I think, values are what is represented here, differing values. And I think, displaying that to the community and leading by action is one way to, kind of dispel the rumors and put the politics aside, right? That's how I see it.
Mr. Smith, thank you for your interest in this position. How would you approach handling hot-button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for our students? And feel free to use an example of a past hot-button issue that this board has dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or would have done differently.
Okay, perfect. I think the number one thing is to rely on the voice of the parents, the students, and the community, so that you're taking in your various stakeholders, but also being very transparent with these stakeholders, right? The big thing is that's coming to my mind right now is the Parental Bill of Rights, that went through this board, and then the decisions around COVID, whether that be masking or shutting down schools. I think there was a lot of different voices in the community, but had we have listened to the parents over the politicians, I think that we would have ended up in a better place. And I'm speaking about the COVID decisions. There were, things that happened in the county, particularly with the county commissioners where things were passed. And then the school board, took a different approach and kind of push back on that when I felt like there was a lot of, community engagement involved with the county commissioners. So I do feel like listening to the community, listening to the stakeholders, and listening to the parents, is going to provide for a better outcome. So making sure that you're gathering that feedback, listening to that feedback, understanding that feedback. That's how I see. That's how I would deal with hot button issues. At the end of the day, you're going to have hot button issues. This is not an easy job. This is not an easy board. This is not an easy county to operate in. So we are going to have hot button issues, and the way we get around that is through transparency and community engagement and listening to the stakeholders. Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mr. Smith.
Hello.
Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust.
Sure.
In your opinion, as a prospective board member, how important is parent feedback in shaping the district? And if you have a recommendation for improving the communication, please share.
Well, like I mentioned in my opening remarks, I think parental involvement and collaboration with the district, is of utmost importance. So, I'm a staunch advocate of that. Now, I think we need to make it easy, right? I think it can be difficult for a parent to, have transparency into what's going on in the school. You really have to go out of your way and know how to navigate, the websites, or you have to, how to navigate, Cora requests, right? Things are just not easy. So the more transparent that we can make things, the easier, that we can deliver the information to the parents, the better off we're going to be. Because, whether schools or, this goes for any governing body. If you're not as transparent as you can be, people can accuse you of hiding things, whether it's true or not. It's just how it looks at face value. So the easier you can make this information to be digestible and attainable by everyone, the better off you're going to be for the community and for your constituents. So that's my recommendation, making it easy to access that information. Thanks.
Hey, Matt.
Hi.
So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Sure. I've had many facets of leadership throughout my career. I started very young in the military, took an alternative path. So I've had the military style leadership. I mean, before I could legally drink alcohol, I was leading, teams of 15 people in an intelligence center in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And so, I've had a bunch of varying styles of leadership. As of late in my current career, as an IT leader, I tend to, be more of the lead by example. And I'll give you a great example on that. Recently my team had to learn a new technology, get recertified on a new technology in our field. And I went through all the training first. I got the certifications to say, look, I know what I'm asking you to go through. I just did it myself. Here's how long it's going to take. Here's the expectations. I know it's possible. So you show the way, you lead the way, and then people are naturally going to follow once you show them that path forward.
All right. What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role would be if you were on the board?
This almost feels like cheating based on the last meeting, but, I was just in the room when you guys were talking about the growth and decline, within the district, right? And there's obviously, 3 areas in the district, that are, a lot of houses are getting built and there's no schools in the area, Sterling Ranch, Crystal Valley, and Castle Pines. And so, the big thing there, I think that's a big challenge. Obviously, the most immediate challenge that I see. I feel like we're a little bit behind the 8 ball because we've relied solely on the MLO and bond, right, on the ballot. And so I feel like we're a couple years behind. So we do need to start looking at alternative measures, whether that being charter schools in the district. Because I was also in this room when the STEM school, tried to, put forward a proposal to build a school within Sterling Ranch, and there was a lot of pushback on that. But I think we need to be open to that and open to alternative avenues when the funding is just not there. Other things I would like to explore, right? This is just me spitballing, but I would like to, explore partnerships with the county and maybe these developers. How can they pay their part and help with these schools? And the other thing I'm really curious about, just as as an IT leader and someone that likes to tinker with technology, is artificial intelligence. And I'm not trying to dive into the conversation the other night. I'm talking beyond that. We really need to be forward-looking as a district and see, the impacts of artificial intelligence, both good and bad, on the district, right? Because there's a lot of prominent thought thinkers that believe that the education sector will be most impacted by artificial intelligence. And so I'm really excited about those opportunities, but I also feel like as a board, it would be our responsibility to make sure we have a good grasp on that so we're not caught by surprise, which so often happens with technology.
All right, final question. What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
Awesome. Well, one, there's several parents on the board, and so I think that's a big thing that I bring is I have a vested interest in the district, but I also feel like I bring a wide breadth of experience. Do I have a lot of time volunteering for, things within the district? No, but it's not for lack of trying. For example, I interviewed with the Equity Advisory Council. I interviewed with the MBEC. And so I've tried to be on, volunteer committees here. But one interesting thing, and Director Meek, I was really hoping to get a policy question because I really studied up on that. But yeah, right. A big thing that I found out while studying the Carver model was that it enables you to decide without requiring technical expertise. Excuse me. So, what does that mean to me? It means you don't have to have deep domain knowledge, within the district to have an impact using the Carver model, using policy governance. And so I feel like I bring a wide breadth of experience and I bring an open mind. And I'm not so narrow focused because I've been living in the district for so long. I can bring outside perspective and I can bring a unique viewpoint to this board.
Great, thank you. And when you're ready, you can go ahead with your closing statement.
Okay, perfect. As we conclude, I'd like to reiterate my dedication to the Douglas County School District. My experiences as a law enforcement officer, IT leader, volunteer, board member, and most importantly, a parent of a sixth grader within the district, have collectively shaped my vision for the schools. In today's rapidly evolving world, our educational system must remain adaptable, secure, and forward-thinking. My background in technology and public service uniquely positions me to contribute to the district's strategy around technology and AI, as well as the safety and security of our schools. I sit before you as a staunch advocate for an education system that values parental involvement and remains unbiased and academically focused. Our schools must be sanctuaries where young minds are nurtured, free from undue external pressures, ensuring every student's voice is heard and their needs are met. Joining the Douglas County School District Board represents more than a title to me. It's a commitment to a cause that I deeply believe in. It's an opportunity to use my skills and passion to make a real difference in the lives of our children and our community. It's about ensuring that every child in our district has access to the highest quality education, one that not only fosters academic excellence, but also supports their overall well-being. In closing, my commitment to this role is unwavering. I am ready to listen, learn, and lead. I pledge to be a responsible steward of our community's trust and resources, a supportive partner to parents, a champion for teachers and staff, and a guiding force for our students' future, regardless of the chosen path. I am committed to fostering a collaborative and effective educational environment for the Douglas County School District. Thank you very much for the time and the ability to interview here today. And this would be the first interview that I'd walked away from without shaking people's hands. So am I allowed to approach the board? Is that allowed?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Smith. You're welcome to stay or leave, whatever's easiest, convenient for you. All right. I think next we have Mr. Jeffrey Winters. Hello, Mr. Winters. Thank you for
Hello.
being here today.
You
Just so
bet.
you know, the microphone likes it when you're close, so you can either take it out if it's more comfortable, or you can just lean in, whatever's
Okay.
easiest for you. Yeah, thank you. Just a quick overview, we will allow a 2-minute opening statement.
Yes.
And then each director will ask a question, in which you will have a 2-minute response time, and then a closing statement that is also 2 minutes. Any
Sounds good.
questions?
No questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you for having me. You know, sitting back there, you guys are going to have some tough questions. You have some really good people up here. It's great. I enjoyed that. I appreciate this time. I think what I bring here is such a breadth of experience with accounting, being a CPA, being a teacher and a coach at one point, and then also the ability to serve on some nonprofit boards that I've been doing recently. I got to thinking about my teaching and why I went into that as a young person. And I tell this to many people many times. I say, I had a real passion for kids. I wanted to make a difference for kids, and that's why I got an education degree, wanted to coach, wanted to teach. And that is why it's important for me to be here, is that we can really let teachers live that dream of making a difference in kids' lives. It's hard when you're not making much money and you're raising a family and you're putting up with these kids that some of them are pretty damaged and some of them are motivated and ready to go. We really need to find a way that we can encourage our teachers, not just through salaries. That's a big part of it, but also through other things, that we can let them live that dream that they thought they were getting into when they went into education. Let's go.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for your interest in doing this and for your time today. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Public polling has shown a consistent concern in this community that this board is, quote, too political. I'd like you to address what you think that may mean and what you as a board member might do to address that perception.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think that polling is true, and I think what I would do as a board member is, I think governance really requires a board governance, and that I've seen this on my other board positions, is the ability to establish policies that are well-written. And as you as an attorney, you know, you got to write things that look for different contingencies and cover all that so that you can be governed by what your policy is. And we need to really look at how to do that effectively without opinion, based more on facts, based more on what we know this community needs and wants. And so I think that we really need to work there. The other thing is a lot of the angst, a lot of the headbutting, I think was a result of maybe not a teachable heart. We don't all know everything, and everything we believe isn't always right or perfectly right. And we need to have teachable hearts that we can learn from each other and all of that.
I like that phrase.
Hi, Mr. Winters. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm over here.
Okay. Sorry about
the
that.
Sky.
Yeah,
I don't know where it's coming from. So my question is, how would you approach handling hot button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for students? And feel free to use an example of a past hot button issue that this board dealt with and what you either appreciated about it or might have handled it differently.
Yeah. I think with the hot button issues, I think, again, I go back to what I had said before. We really need to listen to each other and have teachable hearts. We need to be able to say, why are you coming from that position? And where does that go? The other thing is we need to have the ability to go back to our documents, to our policies, and say, what are we about? What is Douglas County School District about? And let's make sure we stay within the guardrails on what that is and not vary out of that. Of course, the mask issue is what comes to mind for almost everybody. And I think, again, we should have spent more time looking at the facts and what are the actual facts about all this, and not the fear-mongering or the on one side or the total disregard of anything on the other side, but to look at facts and base our policies on the absolute facts out there. I see you.
I know. I didn't know if we were officially good evening or what, but hello, Mr. Winters.
Hi.
And I agree with what you say. This might be the first time in a board history we just might have to do rock, paper, scissors. I don't know. So this has got some good candidates.
Oh, man.
Anyway, ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective board member, how important is parent input and feedback in shaping the district? And if you have some recommendations for improving communication, please share.
Yeah. I believe parents are the parents. I believe they need to be the ones that are making the decisions for their kids. Now, that said, there are parents that aren't parents. There are parents that are disengaged with their kids, and that's a tough situation. That's really hard. But we have to be able to mentor kids at all stages. Parental involvement has got to be high on the priority. The fine line you walk there is that you can't have 500 parents with 500 views of everything that's going to happen. We have to have policy. They have to be reined into the policies and the guardrails that we have established for what we want to do as a school district. But we have to listen to them. They have to have input. They have to know that what is happening to their kids is something that they have some input into, and that it's not being jammed down their throat. How to do that? That's a really great question. I think it's something that the board should explore, and in many ways. And I don't know whether that's public forums where you, or is it going door to door and asking parents, or is it working with PTAs? There's got to be ways to really get to the parents and say, here's our struggles. Here's where we struggle. We need your help in this. We do have committees, I know, that will do some of that, accountability committees, other things, and those are critical.
All right. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? And how would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
Okay. It seems I've been in leadership positions my whole life. I was president of my school, and it just seems like it chases me around. Again, I go back to two things. One, find out the facts before you make the decisions, and base your decisions on facts about what's. So in other words, do your homework. Don't go into this stuff. I might use the mask thing as an example. What were the facts of the efficacy of masks? What were the facts of the exposures and all of this? Those are the kind of things we need to look for. Second thing is, I like to get input from people. I don't like to make decisions in a silo and jam it down people's throats. I much more prefer to have a collaborative effort on decision making. And had to do a lot of that in my public accounting career, where we were developing software and having to do stuff to develop softwares that would become the basis for a whole industry on very technical issues. So you had to get collaborative efforts on everything.
All right. What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role would be if you were on the board?
Yep. I think the biggest challenge is to get some schools to places where there aren't schools. I think it's a huge deal for Sterling Ranch. I think it's a huge deal for Ridge Point Gate. I always forget that stuff. But those are huge. How are we going to do that? How are we going to convince a population that we need to get schools to these kids where they can go to a community school instead of being bused? It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And I think what I can help in that area is with the financial and accounting area of all of that. It'd be great if we weren't funded by taxes, but we are. That's the life of the schools. And so we have to figure out ways to convince our public that it's to their benefit, and even the older people in the district too, that, hey, this is to your benefit for us to have schools in Sterling Ranch. The other part of that is that we have schools that are contracting. We have schools in areas, and when I was a kid, I was brought up in the South Jeffco School District. I was in this district that was expanding like crazy. I went to Carmody Junior High when it first opened, and we had kids from Deer Creek up at the top of Deer Creek Canyon and kids from Alameda. And half of us went to Alameda and half of us went to Bear Creek. So it was an interesting dynamic, and it's the kind of thing you get in growth. Now at Alameda, they had to go IB so they could get people in there and make it a magnet at school. So it's those challenges of expansion in some areas and contraction in others, it's overwhelming. And again, I think what I bring to that is the financial and hopefully the ability to communicate that to the public. I really believe our public wants to support the schools. I don't believe they trust, and this isn't just this school board, it's school boards across the country. They don't trust that that school board will take their money and put it where they say it will go. I think that's a huge issue and a huge thing to overcome.
All right, last question.
Okay.
What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
Okay. Two things. One, I think, is the accounting and finance area. Spent many years with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Looked at lots of financial statements. I understand all that stuff. Enough said about that. That's just accounting. The other thing is I really have a heart for the coaches. If in my world of teaching and coaching and being a player, nothing impacted me like coaches. Nothing. They spend so much time with kids. They're in a position of power. They're in a position that nobody else is. And we need policies that rein them in, give them good guidelines, give them an ability to perform well, but also don't allow them to go outside of where we want them to be, the sexual harassment thing, which we see in the papers all the time with coaches, things like that. And then the final thing is my experience on boards and how boards should work and how we need to, as a board, function well to enable those to perform their jobs, to enable the experts to do what experts do.
Great. And so your closing statement whenever
Closing
you're ready.
statement. Throughout my business career, throughout my coaching career, throughout my board member career, throughout everything, the key, I think, is for a group like this, for a board, to set great policies based on facts with great guidelines that give great employees, great experts, the ability to do what they do best. I think we need to enable our superintendent, and I'll tell you this, I tell my kids all the time when they're asking about different schools, is this a good school, bad school? I say, you look at the principal and you'll know if that's a good school. The principal is critical, and we have got to be able to hire great principals that can hire great teachers that can live their dream of being a teacher and why they do that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your interest in the position. We all really appreciate it. You're more than welcome to stay, or if you need to leave, that's fine as well. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
On to the last, I think, Miss Natalie Wong. Hello, Miss Wong. Thank you for being here. So the microphone likes it when you're close, so you're either welcome to pick it up and hold it if that's more comfortable for you, or you can just lean in, whatever's more comfortable.
Okay.
Thank you for being here and your interest in the position. Just a quick overview. You'll start with a 2-minute opening statement, and then each director will ask a question, and you'll be allowed about 2-minute response, and then a 2-minute closing statement.
Great.
Any questions?
No?
Great. Start whenever you're ready.
Great. All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you for this time. My name is Natalie Wong, and I am interested in filling this vacancy that's on the board. I believe I would be a great asset to the board because of my experience and my skills, but mostly my passion. My experience is I wear many hats. I am a professional educator. I've been teaching in the classroom for well over a decade. And I'm currently an active substitute teacher for our district. And on occasion, I will guest teach science and math. That's personally one of my favorite things to do in some of our schools. As a parent, I pour hundreds of volunteer hours into our schools. As an example, most recently, over the last 3 years, I've been the chair for our SAC, School Accountability Committee. And through that, I have spearheaded many school community events, really with the goal to come alongside our educators to create a collaborative environment and support academics that are relevant and robust and really grounded in research-based practices. That's where my heart lies. And then with my experience in the educational arena, I have collected and I've sharpened skills through the years, such as I am very well practiced at vision casting. I am a problem solver at heart, asking analytical questions, but always keeping an open mind. I am a math geek, so when it comes to charts and numbers and graphs, my heart beats faster in a good way. And I take pride in coming up with good strategies, and I really enjoy a thorough brainstorming session. I'm not afraid to call out the elephant in the room, but I will always lead with compassion, and I am team-minded from that point of view. I know that there are a lot of critical issues that need to be addressed pretty soon for the board. Things like funding or lack thereof, or opening and closing schools, or the mental health crisis that our students are facing, or retaining our quality educators. How do we address those things? Like, what would be my approach would be not pretending that I have all the answers, but surrounding ourselves with experts in the field, and then connecting with the parents and connecting with the educators, and leaning into that as we work together to do what's best for our kids. So I'm eager to join the board from that point of view. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for coming and for waiting to the last
Yes.
as we approach evening here. A consistent issue with public polling has been a perception in the district that this board is quote unquote too political.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what you think of that perception and what you would do as a board member to address that concern.
Interestingly, I am sitting here today, not because it was my own personal motivation, but because I've had many people in my inner circle through my connections in schools say, we need you on the board. And I would look at them and go, I'm not political. And they go, that's why. So from that point of view, I understand how politics can come into school board discussions, because there's the background of values and leanings. And when we're making decisions for children, there's always going to be some sort of political feelings from the public too, right? And we are the voice of the public. However, I believe we should never make our choices based on our own political leanings. And even if we, as a board, are seen as being political, we can change that narrative by being very intentional and being transparent in the way we address things and connecting well with our public and our community. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Ms. Wong. Thanks for being here today and for your interest. How would you approach handling hot button issues in a way that minimizes division and maximizes positive outcomes for our students? And feel free to use an example of a past hot button issue this board's dealt with to explain what either you appreciated about it or might have done differently.
So I'm in this realm a lot. Specifically as chair for SAC, there are things that have come up in our school which are hot button topics. And I have had to do some interesting footwork with our principal and with our families, where you honor every single perspective, because there is not one perspective that is more worthy than the other, right? And so it is my intention to make sure that I am listening to every voice that wants to be heard. And I do not want an echo chamber. So in my leadership through SAC, I have, and people know this about me, like, I am open, you need to come talk, and then we will be transparent on how we do this process. And it's been good. I know there are some hot button topics here, and probably the one that's coming up, right, is the opening and closing of schools. And I know that can be a very emotional thing, especially when it was brought up, I think it was about a year ago when it was first initiated. The public's perception was like panic. But I thought the board did a pretty good job in just putting the message out there. I mean, like, this is a process that we are working through it, and we are going to be very transparent about it. And these are the ways we're going to do it. It was informing and educating the public, which was a really big thing. The same thing occurred when we were pushing for the MLO and the bond. The education behind that, again, from a SAC point of view, trying to educate our parents was phenomenal in how there were no political lines, and it was facts, and it was from different points of view of how those items could be addressed. Yeah.
Good evening, Natalie. Ongoing two-way communication between the school district and parents is key to building strong partnership and trust. In your opinion, as a prospective board member, how important is parent input, feedback in shaping the district, and if you have any recommendations for improving communication?
So my quick answer is it is vital, connecting with our parent community, because we are the voice of our community, right? So that is huge. And there are various ways to do that. Just being on campus, right? As a parent, I'm around other parents all the time. But also just being interested too, and leaning into conversations and also leading conversations. So that is huge. And then being involved in various campus activities and being not only just being seen, but being seen interested and excited in the things that our students are doing and that our parents are doing. And also, I'm a big proponent of leading by example. So at our school, I am known as somebody who just volunteers a lot. And I will hook shoulders with somebody else and say, let's go do this together. Like, you don't have to be scared to do this. So connecting with our parent community is huge. And I just want to also add, connecting with our educators is huge too. And I think it needs to be done in partnership. And I know one of our initiatives through SAC this year was we did a summer camp day where the core values of our educators were taught to our our parents, so they could be on board. And that's the kind of thing that I just love doing, is creating bridges. So connection is vital.
Thank you. It's a good thing you like to volunteer, since this is a volunteer position.
Yeah, it's another hat.
All right. Hi, Natalie. So this is a shared leadership position. How would you describe your leadership style and provide examples from your past leadership experience? How would those strengths benefit the effectiveness of this board?
I'm an internal processor, so if it looks like I'm being quiet, it's because I'm really thinking. It's a great question. Thank you. So my leadership style is one where I come across as very contemplative, but when I have a task and I have that goal and fleshed out, I'm running and I run hard, and it's hard to stop me. But I never do things in isolation, because I've done that in the past and it's not good for many reasons, right? But I have an example. This year, as SAC chair, I have worked extremely closely with we call it PCF, but PTA equivalent, president. The partnership that we have together is really unprecedented. And we together have just done great things on campus, mainly because there's no competition. And we know each other's strengths and we know each other's weaknesses. And then we also know each other's lanes. So we will stay in the right lane, and we will gladly push the other one out of our lane if we know that they're not in the right place. And we take that with grace. So it's been a great learning year from that point of view, just working so closely with somebody and just kind of doing the dance, right? But my leadership style in general is something that was not on my resume, but I've also coached many sports. So I'm a team player at heart, and I know how to do that dynamic. And I know when we are starting to be too isolated or too me focused, and I know how to pull out of that and recognize that early enough in the game. And then in terms of one of the big things about being a leader, right, is being a good servant. That is a core value of mine. So you will see my leadership is really how do I serve and how do I show other people how to serve.
Great. You've kind of answered some of this in your prior answers, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
What do you see as the biggest challenge DCSD has in the coming year or two? And what do you see your role would be if you were on the board?
Funding is huge. So funding unlocks just a lot of things, right? So in terms of consolidating schools or recruiting, retaining quality educators, or even beyond that, just being able to equip our educators by sending them on professional development conferences, right? So funding is huge in my mind. Now, how would I go about doing that? I do have some ideas, but because something else that you will know if you talk to people on my teams, when it comes to brainstorming, I am the kind of person that will throw crazy ideas out there, because when I brainstorm, I put no limits on it. So I come up with just ideas that perhaps seem outlandish, but then once we start putting the limits in there or the contingencies, it narrows it down a bit. But I want to start off thinking like, this might seem like a ludicrous idea, but maybe it can actually work, or maybe we can morph it and turn it into a creative solution. So I wish I could say I have a funding solution for Douglas County, but I don't. I do have ideas, but I am willing to listen to the people who are experienced in this, who have good ideas and who have practiced and walked through this before. I'm ready to go to other districts and see, well, what do you do when you are strapped for funding? And how can we partner and do something together? How can we lean into our community? Perhaps they won't vote for a bond, but perhaps they'll come around and help fund in a different way, right? So being creative from that point of view and not putting limits on the thinking.
All right, last question.
Yes.
What is something you feel you can add to this board that isn't already represented by any of us currently serving on the board?
That is a tough question because I don't personally know all you, although I would love to. So part of my background is I have been in Douglas County almost for 4 years now, but I'm also from Florida. And I was, that was where I got my master's in education. It's where I started my educational career. And it's where I was on SAC as a teacher and as a parent. I've opened schools there. I've closed schools there as a teacher. So I have a lot of background coming from Florida, and then also getting a diverse experience, right, in Florida of how schools are run there. I was a curriculum lead expert for the district. So within the district itself, I was involved on just many levels. So I have that kind of point of view. And then if you go even further back, I was actually born and raised in South Africa, and the educational system there, surprisingly, is very similar to the Colorado education system, and but different, right? So, and I loved my education there. So I also have this diverse, eclectic view of what education could be. It's different and it can be exciting, but outside of perhaps the echo chamber that we might live in over here. So I think I could add some of that spice to it. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. That brings us to your closing statement.
Yes, so yellow. Yellow is my favorite color. It reminds me of warm suns, especially on days like today, vibrant memories, and just brilliant days of fun. Okay, why am I telling you this? Because it gives you a little bit of glimpse into my personality, into my character, right? Into who I am, which means you get to connect with me a little bit. Connection, when you are serving in a public role, is vital. And connecting with our DCSD community is huge. And I am there. Like, as the school board, we are the link to the community. And that is a role that I thrive in. So to exemplify this, I have collected a couple of voices from the community that I'm connected with. It's across the spectrum that I wanted to share with you. Just give me a couple. Okay. So from a SAC rep, Natalie, we need you joining the board. You are fair, you're reasonable, you see both sides of situations. Most of all, you are not political, but truly want what's best for teachers so they can provide our children with the best. From a PTA rep, you see all sides and you care deeply about it all. That is powerful. From a school administrator, you have a dedication and a passion for what is best for kids. You get it and are willing to do the hard work to make education meaningful and valuable for our kids. From a teacher, you are a champion for educators and supporting their needs so they can do their best work for kids. Great teachers equal great education. And from a DCSD parent, how many people have your drive, Natalie? Your drive to create solutions and to work as a team. And you have a background in education that will make you a uniquely qualified asset to all the stakeholders and other board members in DCSD. So those are the voices of the people who trust me to be their voice. After all, this is government for the people, by the people. So I am willing to lean in and put in the hard work to honor that trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your interest and thanks for being here and waiting until the last. So we appreciate it.
Thank you for sitting here for so long.
You're more than welcome to stay. We're going to take a recess. And then we will come back to discuss the candidates and put up to 3 candidates to push forward. Is everyone okay with 15 minutes? We'll just do it at 5 o'clock. Thank you. The board is back in session. I've had a quick request that we would talk as a board before we start nominations, just generally, not speaking specifically about any candidate or any candidate's qualifications, but what we're looking for as a board to bring on as a seventh member. So I will open that up for discussion. And I'll start with you since you asked for it, Director Thompson.
Yeah, so I just figured if we could just have a conversation about what we think will help strengthen us as a board. I think that, we're already a new board and we've had a lot of great conversations so far, and I feel like we've been working together really well. And, adding a new person, we know that this is going to change our board again. And we could look for a candidate that I think helps strengthen what we've started so far. So one of the qualities that I personally value is someone who's a flexible thinker. I think there's a lot of value in being able to change your mind when presented with all of the information. So I just feel like that's a strength. That would be a great asset for our team. Student-centered, of course. That's a core value I think we all share. And let's see here. I want to be careful about the language that I use. So, but just really, we exemplifies collaboration, but at the heart of what that actually means. So that goes beyond listening, but actually hearing what people say and taking in those perspectives.
Director Geiger?
I agree with many of the things that Director Thompson said, all of the things Director Thompson said. It's kind of interesting. The only person who didn't say collaborative at the table had it 3 times in their letter of interest. So it's quite clearly a key word, and I appreciate that everyone addressed that. I'm also looking at involvement in the district and knowledge of the district in various ways. People who have been involved in the district and broader in the community. I think those are important issues. This job is not drinking from a fire hose, it's drinking from a fire hydrant. There's no limitation on any of it. And I'm still trying to learn. Director Thompson, I know, is still trying to learn. There's a lot to this. And I think there is a value in having some experience within the district and some broader experience with how the district operates. So that's one, not the sole consideration, but that's also something that I'm going to be, and I am continuing to think about a great deal as I process kind of what would work best on this board at this time.
Director Weiniger?
Yes, I agree. I'm looking for all that in our candidates as well. And also something else that the reason why I asked my question of what else can you bring that this board doesn't already have is because I think that is also important to just expand the diversity of our thought on this board. So I was looking for that, and then also a good understanding of, in addition to what everyone else said, a good understanding of the role that this comes with, because that is a learning curve no matter what, but if you already come in with a good base, I think that's important. And also just something I want to know, I think it would be really good that we do try our best to get a 3 finalists, because I think it is good to have the public weigh in, and so they'll have that opportunity on our next meeting. So just something that I feel would be important to not just try to only get 1 finalist tonight, but get our 3.
Director Meek?
I think I agree with everything that's been said. For me, especially experience and a clear understanding of what's required. It's a heavy lift to serve on the board with all of the time and the learning curve and everything else. So someone who understands what it actually takes, but also, my question I was trying to get at, keeping and prioritizing student needs and minimizing division. So that was really important to me. And then, navigating complex situations. I think whenever there are tough decisions to make, someone who understands the complexity of some of the decisions that we need to make.
Director Myers.
Well, I probably didn't say this to the candidates, but thank you again for those that came forward. And oh my goodness, what I said good candidates, it was an exceptional list. I was just totally thought this was just a great interview time. I believe that we heard at several times some points, some excellent points, maybe some issues that were driven home for us as a board to hear. New board and board previous, that we've been here. And that hopefully we were listening to some of these things. And the one thing that came across from all these candidates is the engagement piece. And the words like, that they're just committed to seeing that this school district comes together and we can do that, and we can do it. And I kind of think that the person that, well, and maybe let me go back a little bit. I think from our CASB retreat, or from our retreat before CASB, we just had a new slate, a new vision with the six of us. And so maybe this person that we bring on now is the icing to the cake, will complement us. And as an educator, the educator that's up here, hearing compassion and always that kids are at the focal point, the heart, and hearing people talk about policy. We just had some people that knew where we are in Douglas County to bring us back to that excellence again. So thank you again, and thank you for staying here, and it is now evening.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything, and I think that I agree with Director Weiniger too, that what can the new person bring to complement the board that's different than what each of us have, and that is definitely something that I was looking at. But also to Director Geiger's point, someone that knows things that are happening in the district, which is what kind of my question was, making sure that maybe the people that were applying understood what Douglas County's issues were, or the challenges, and what we have to look forward to. So with that, I'm just going to read how the next part of the meeting is going to work. So it says, during the January 11th, 2024 board meeting, after all initial interviews of applicants are complete, the district's board shall determine no more than 3 finalists to be considered to fill the vacant board position. The finalists shall be determined by the following process. The presiding officer of the meeting shall call for nominations to fill the vacancy from the pool of those applicants who participated in initial interviews. Multiple nominations and seconds may be made. Nominations that receive a second shall then be open for discussion by the board. Once the discussion is concluded, nominees to be a finalist shall be voted on in order of their nomination by a roll call vote. Once a nominee receives a majority of votes, that nominee shall be selected to be a finalist to be considered to fill the vacancy. So it is my hope that we can collectively, as a board of 6, agree to 3 candidates to send forward so that we can get input from our public and our community, and that we can come to that agreement. Does anybody have questions about how this is going to work before we get started? All right, well, then I will ask, does anybody have a nomination? Director Weiniger and then Director Geiger.
I nominate Timothy Moore. Are there any seconds?
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, Director Geiger.
I nominate Sandra Brownrigg.
Second.
Okay, so we have, I'm sorry, with Timothy Moore, we had a motion by Weiniger and a second by Myers. With Sandra Brownrigg, we had a motion by Geiger, second by Weiniger. Do I have another? Director Thompson?
I nominate Natalie Wong.
Second.
Okay, so I have nomination of Natalie Wong by Director Thompson, second by Director Geiger. Do I have any other?
I'll do another nomination. Matthew Smith.
Okay, I have a nomination for Matthew Smith. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, motion by Weiniger, second by Myers. And another, Director Thompson.
Sorry, last one, but I don't want to say his name. I nominate Jesse. Can you get the last, one more time with the last name so I say it right?
Lashmadir.
Lashmadir, thank you.
Great, okay, so that's a motion by Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, second by Meek. All right, well, I guess, yes, I'm sorry.
Just a clarification,
Yes.
President Williams,
Yes.
they're not a motion, they're nominations.
Nominating, sorry, nominating. My apologies, nominations. Got it. All right, so I guess it is my understanding, do we have to talk about them in order? Can we talk about them in collaboration and then vote on them in order?
They should be discussed in order.
Okay. So the nominations are, in order, Timothy Moore, Sandra Brownrigg, Natalie Wong, Matthew Smith, and Jesse Lashmadir. All right. I'll open it up for discussion. Director Weiniger.
Yeah, since I nominated Timothy, I'll talk about why I did. I just liked his background having safety and security. I feel like Director Peterson kind of had that role when he was here, and I think he would fill that knowledge and expertise around whenever we have any kind of policy around that. And I feel like he also had a good understanding of board work and as the role that the school district plays in our community and the partnerships and that we have in our community. And he's been here since 1989. He's had 2 daughters. He's had a vested interest, and he continues to by still living here, obviously. But I just felt like he had a good base to come in here and to really get his hands dirty and do what's right for our district. So that's why I decided to nominate him.
Director Thompson.
So I agree that especially the safety and security being a strength. And I also liked that he's advocated for school safety at the legislative level, the school level, as well as actively being a part of planning and safety. He mentioned extensive examples of that. And I think that that is very helpful. And we do know that safety in our schools is one of the priorities I think we all share, but we know that our community shares.
I'll just give my input too. I think one of the things I actually put down that he said was that I appreciated from being on this board is that once there's a vote made, that we speak with one voice. And I appreciated that he understood that once a vote is made, that there was that level of commitment to make sure that we're speaking that one voice to the community. So in addition to obviously all of his safety and security background, I really loved that he said that. Director Myers.
And I will reiterate what everyone said about Mr. Moore. I did like that the safety and security piece is really pivotal today. He's been in the district since 1989. I liked that he said, tell me if I'm wrong, the community leans a lot on the board. And so we need to do what's right, and we do it for the right reasons. So those things just kind of hit home. And of course, I love the leadership style, collaborative, which is what I know that we're leaning to do, is working collaboratively together. Teamwork. So those are the things that I really liked about Mr. Moore.
Director Meek?
Yeah, I echo what everyone said. I believe he is a true public servant and understands what it takes to serve on a board and has that level of experience. I also appreciated the one voice, one team, respect each other language he used around shared leadership.
Director Geiger?
When it was decided that we were going to be interviewing Mr. Moore, I reached out to someone who had served with him in the sheriff's department. And that person spoke very highly of his character, of his willingness to listen. I think Mr. Moore is a strong personality, and I consider that a plus. Someone who I think has very strong opinions, but who is based both on what I saw today and what I've heard about him, someone who also can respect the opinions of others and consider them.
Great. So I think we need to move into a vote at this time for him, or we can talk about, we discuss all of them and then come back.
Discuss all of
Great.
the nominees first, and then we will move into a vote in the order of the nominations.
Great. All right, so the second nomination was Ms. Brownrigg, so I will let you, Director Geiger, since you are the one that nominated her.
For those who don't know, to make it clear on the record, I've worked with Ms. Brownrigg for the better part of a decade now. She was on the DAC when I was on the Long Range Planning Committee. We have worked together on the Mill Bond Exploratory Committee, not once, not twice, but thrice. She has always been a strong voice and advocate for the district, for the students of the district, for the parents and teachers of the district. She has, as much as anybody can, not sitting on this dais, an understanding of how the district operates, how the board operates. She has a strong commitment to the point that she is vice chair of a committee or of a group that tries to avoid some partisanship and understand it. She has said repeatedly that she thinks that this board needs to be representative. Because I've known Sandra for quite a bit of time, we've had the chance to strongly agree and vehemently disagree on a number of issues, and we have always been able to do so with respect and intelligence. And I think I've changed her mind once or twice. She has certainly changed mine. So I think she would be particularly a person on this board who we can all rely on to think about how the board should operate and what policy should look like. I don't think she would dominate, but nor would she in any way reserve her opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the board has trusted her in running the MBEC for 2 years consecutively since I've been here. And so obviously, I guess, Director Thompson and Director Geiger weren't here, but since you just said it, I mean, there is a trust for Ms. Brownrigg and what she's done for the community and making sure that she's putting the kids and the families and the teachers as priority in all of her decision-making. And I, too, have had agreements and disagreements with her. So I appreciate that she is always willing to share those. Director Thompson.
Thanks. So Sandra has a unique advantage in the fact that she has been highly engaged at the district level. So I have history with her as well, serving on the MBEC both this year and last year. And I can attest to firsthand seeing that she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. When she talked about that she brings in multiple voices, I've seen that. I've seen her elevate voices of people that were not present, and they were voices that she disagreed with. And I think that those are all really important characteristics and a major strength. I also like that she acknowledged elevation in governance, and that she also aspires for that. I think that was fantastic. I could say a lot about her. Let me just make sure I hit the points that, let's see. Yeah, just that her accuracy and how she described her leadership. I felt that that was extremely, I mean, there's just so much truth to it. She does welcome diversity of thought. Brad, you mentioned about representative board, that she is in support of that, and she has said that on record multiple times, so, yeah.
Director Myers.
Well, the 2 years I've been on the board, I have gotten to know Sandra. I believe my most vivid memory was when she stood before us and admonished us, told us our sins. It was okay, you can hear those things. Yeah, yeah. So, and you know, she's a great communicator. She does not mind voicing her opinion. There's some people that you just make a connection with. I've made that connection with her, and she has her leadership style. She doesn't mind getting in there and getting dirty, I don't think. So, you know, I just wanted to say that, yep, our candidates.
Director Meek.
I agree with what everyone has said already. I really think her deep experience and deep level of experience in our district and her level of commitment is second to none. And I think it allowed her to provide really in-depth responses to the questions that we asked tonight. And I really appreciated that. She walks the talk. Right? She seeks out diverse thinkers and puts them together in a room, and that's no easy feat. And I think that bridging the divide was one of the areas I mentioned was really important. And I think she did just a really phenomenal job of, you know, explaining how she has done that in the past and how she would do that moving forward.
Director Weiniger.
I'll just say I concur. I think Sandra checks pretty much all the boxes, and has a huge heart for this district and is very committed. And just something I like that she said to Director Meek's question on hot button issues. She said that we can come to our decisions based on our input from our community and as well as our principled beliefs. So that's why I seconded the nomination.
All right, great. On to the third nomination was Miss Natalie Wong, and so I will start with you, Director Thompson.
All right, thank you. So I think the impression that I got from Natalie is true servant leadership. And I think that that was definitely evidenced in her story of being elevated by those that she serves with to go for this role. And that her leadership is valued and seen as something that she hears all voices. She also showed that she has a lot of background information, not only about her district, but about the role of an educator. She was really a large advocate for teachers, which was nice. She hit on, I have a list of points that I wanted to be able to hear each candidate talk about, and she was one of the candidates that was able to hit on every single one of my points. And let's see here. I also like that she was able to, you know, on the fly, actually kind of throw out ideas, even though she said they were just ideas and she didn't have the solution, but she still was able to say something that I was like, made me think for a second about it, and I appreciated that in the moment like that. And I also enjoyed the comment about having a unique and eclectic view of what education could be. And I think that that demonstrates that she has a very positive outlook on our district and also is inspired.
Director Myers, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Well, definitely had me on the color yellow. Love the shirt, it's bold. But I think more than that is the voice of compassion, and I'm sorry, I'm just a sucker for educators. That's where my heart is. And knowing that even though you've been, 4 years here in Colorado, you began way a long time ago becoming involved with education, teachers, students, and just the compassion and the empathy of knowing what the job our teachers do. And it sometimes, unless you've been there, you just really don't know till you put your feet in those shoes. The communication was great, sitting here and looking at us and communicating, and I felt it was very much from the heart, but yet you had the knowledge of what's going on. So thank you.
Director Meek.
Sure, I definitely agree with everything that Director Myers just said. I think an educator perspective on the board could be really, really valuable. Strong facilitation skills, and I think that's what you were seeing with the communication and connection and everything. I really appreciated the lead by example, which we heard from a few candidates tonight. And serving on the chair of a SAC and the research-based practices, I really appreciated all of those contributions.
And I also just, I heard just a couple things that I took out was I loved how Natalie said that she would surround herself with experts so that when we are making decisions that we're really looking at and asking for feedback from experts before we make decisions. And then just the connection is vital, so similar to what has already been said. Director Weiniger.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. I really like Natalie's compassion she had and how she'll come from a place of understanding all sides and has experience with that, and her deep connection with the schools, deep connection with schools. I love that. As far as the role as the board goes, I feel like she maybe didn't have that, but I think she seemed very willing to understand it and learn it, and seems like someone who could catch on pretty easily. So yeah, I thought she was a strong candidate.
Director Geiger.
I knew Ms. Brownrick, I knew of Mr. Moore, Ms. Wong, I don't know. But she's as impressive as anybody who ever sat there. Prepared, intelligent, vast background that I don't have and that I greatly appreciate. And a personality that I thought would mesh well with this board. I think somebody who could come in and help us problem solve, who's willing to listen and to think, who brings in a lot of good opinions, but not ones that are so strong that they can't be changed based on discussion and fact. And so I was, at first I do need to say, and we are making hard decisions here. We're not splitting hairs. We have strong people with very different strengths. We're trying to balance each one of those, and in trying to decide who to vote for here, we're trying to balance which strengths matter most. Ms. Wong's, I thought, were so strong in terms of knowing the education, knowing the kids, caring about the kids. That's going to carry a lot of weight with me.
All right, and we will move on to Mr. Matthew Smith. So Director Weiniger.
Yep, I nominated Matthew because something else that I was looking for in a candidate, I really do like to have someone who has a student currently in the school, which obviously isn't the only consideration, but I really do like to look for that. So I wanted to at least have one of those candidates there, and we had a lot that were parents already and had a heart for wanting to serve this role, but I think he had more of an understanding of what's going on in the school district and current needs that we have and current operations of the board. And I think he's tried to be more volunteer and hasn't had the opportunity. I think this would be a good opportunity for him to really bring that perspective of someone who isn't in the deep murkiness sometimes we get lost in, and he can come in and kind of remind us, hey, this is what parents are feeling, and he just seemed to be a good parent advocate, so that's why I nominated him.
I'll speak to a couple things. So first of all, he's the only person that actually came to the board meeting on Tuesday night. So he was here listening to all of that talk the other night. So I do think that him talking about, at least he's tried to apply to be on other committees. So he has been invested in this district. I think that I thought I saw excitement in him when he started talking about AI and how excited he was about the future of what that could possibly look like for us. And so I definitely think that he brings a different lens than what the board currently has. Director Thompson?
So a few of the things that stood out to me with Matt is he had talked about his interest in being an active participant if he were to sit on the board. He also really advocated for transparency and the importance of transparency, and even went into some details about how that could solve problems. And then, by the way, Matt, thank you for your service. And also the advocacy for the parent voice, I think, is nice.
Director Geiger?
Those of us who've been to board meetings know Mr. Smith. He is a fervent advocate of participation, of wanting to communicate his issues and wanting to work together on that. Mr. Smith is another one of those people who I suspect, were he on this board, him and I would disagree on some issues, and I think do so well. And I value good disagreement. We're at the point where we're trying to pick, as I said, among these. He's a stronger voice. He's going to be someone who participates very vehemently and have very strong, he was very clear that his values are his values. And I think that he is someone who will reflect those values. I think those values are reflected by members of our community. And so I think that's something that we have to think about when we're making this vote.
Director Myers?
I've known Matt a little bit. We've had a couple of incidents that we've had some issues, but we worked it out. You know, I got on to him a couple of times. I think that I do really love that we can start in this district, on this board, that we start listening to different viewpoints. And whether we like the viewpoints or not, we stop the labeling because you might disagree with it or you might be offended by it. It's still called our First Amendment right to speak out. And so I think that's important. But then after that, it's always important. And I think that was one of the things with Matt and I that we just, okay, you know, you did that, you said that, I corrected you, we talked about it, and we're okay because we can do those things. And so he's been in the district, a devoted father, and the desire to be on committees and being that, and not maybe necessarily getting there, but definitely parental involvement. So thank you.
Director Meek?
Let's see. So, Mr. Smith, thank you again for your application. I really enjoyed hearing your answers this evening. I think what stands out to me would be the IT background, the passion around artificial intelligence. It's something I've been, talking about as well up here, because our role really is to look in the future and really be trying to focus on what's right for kids. And also what resonated with me was the wide breadth of experience, what you said for the unique contribution. I honestly think having perspective is one of the most important things. And that's when we hear from people with multiple lenses, right? It helps make the board stronger in that way. And I do believe you also said lead by example, if I remember correctly. Was there anything else I wanted to throw out there? Oh, I did definitely appreciate where you brought up making it easier for parents to navigate. And I also think it's making it easier for teachers to do their job. Our role is trying to make it easier for all of our stakeholders. So I think that's what I would highlight.
Great, and then we're going to move on to Mr. Lajmadier, and I will start with Ms. Thompson. I'm sorry, Director Thompson, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I made my nominations in no particular order, except for a little bit of hesitancy with last names. So I just want to put that out there. So some of the things that stood out with me, or stood out with Jesse for me, was his experience, obviously working in SPED services. I think that is, when we were talking about, what someone can bring to the board, I think that is an actually large strength. I know that is, again, a big priority. It was for me. I know it's a big priority with our community and with others on this board. And so having somebody who not only already is in the field working it and supports advocacy and has the experience working with parents in a collaborative manner, already has experience between understanding the flow between policy and practice. I think that helps inform someone when it comes to writing policy, because you're going to think about what that looks like in practice in the long run. And he made a point about policy aligning with the law that, of course, resonated with me, because I believe that our policy should, of course, align with the law. And one of the things that I value is that when we're making decisions, that we are considering all student groups. And so this is an opportunity to really elevate specific student groups within our community.
Director Geiger.
The other thing, Mr. Lajmadier's resume struck me from the start about what he would add to this group. Because one, special education is not an area I have a great deal of experience with, and I need to learn about that, and I've been trying to work on it. We're not hiring him as a subject matter expert. But the fact that he works in a different district, has seen how other districts work and operate, I think is an extremely important thing to bring to this. I think it's a level of experience that we could look at very strongly about how he can show us other ways to do this. We do not have all the answers. The nice part I like about this board is there's nobody here who thinks they have all the answers. And I think that we can bring that in. I think it comes down to, and this is what makes this decision so hard, is we didn't listen to anybody today who doesn't care, number one, about the kids. They may care in different ways, they may come at it different ways, but they all care very much about the kids. Mr. Lajmadier is doing that work every single day. And to me, that is an incredibly important thing to do. He is dealing with some of the most challenged people in the schools in Denver, and they have challenges there. And so that struck me from the start. I was equally impressed by how he handled it. He is more soft-spoken than I, but that puts him in about 92% of the population. But he says what he says very well and with a great deal of thought. And that's what struck me today.
Yeah, and I thought at the end he said that others have told him he has a very calming demeanor, and I agree, just from being in your presence and having the opportunity to have you here in front of us. Some of the things that I took away, he really focused on positive student outcomes, and that he talked about explaining the why, and how, sometimes if we can explain the why, it's easier to get people to jump on board. So that's what I took. Director Myers.
Well, as usual, the educator piece always gets me. Wow, over 60 schools. I really liked when you asked the political question, and he says life in the public eye is political. So I thought, whoa, yeah, I guess it is. And the hot button issues, there's many solutions to a given issue. So, and then you base everything that you do in love. And I love that word. So communication is crucial. And I think that I could feel that and hear that from your, just us, you talking to us, communicating. And it would really be kind of, it would be nice to be able to hear some of the probably many positive things that people say about you. So, and we're just going to you could bring some unique talents. So thank you.
Director Meek?
I really appreciated the special education professional experience and teacher experience, and definitely the communication skills of being able to have challenging conversations. And I think he demonstrated that as well with his communication skills with us. I also noted prioritizing student needs came up, and that was a really important area for me. I appreciated the answer under the too political question around there's a way to talk without polarizing people. He also mentioned parents and teachers having the same goal for students around the parent communication piece and really reminding people of that. So again, a really great candidate.
Director Weiniger?
I'll just touch that I like that he did appear humble and not someone who would think of himself. He'll think of others, and I agree. I like that he had the special education side that he's very well knowledgeable about.
All right.
Well, we resolved everything there, didn't we?
Rock, paper, scissors.
If I may,
All
we
right.
have one moment. I could say almost equally good things for everybody's here. I think Ms. Persons brings a brilliant aspect to it. Mr. Winters brings the wisdom that he and I in our gray hair share. I can go through every single one of them. Every one of these 9 people would serve our children extraordinarily well. And to narrow it down to these 4 to even discuss was hard. 5, excuse me. And so I want, again, to thank everyone who came. I was dreading 9 interviews. I walk out energized by them. And I want to thank you all.
Director Meek?
I also don't want to miss out on thanking everyone who applied and put yourself out there to come forward and interview for this. Again, we could have listed amazing things about each and every applicant. I just appreciated the thoughtful applications that we received, the interviews tonight, and the willingness to step up and be out there. So thank you.
All right. With that, we will move into voting, and we will start in the order in which they were brought forward. So the first nomination was Timothy Moore, and so we will do a roll call vote. Sorry, go ahead, Director Thompson.
Just for sake of clarification, we do the votes, and then once we hit 3, we're done.
That is true.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Mr. Timothy Moore, Geiger.
Aye.
Meek.
Oh, this is so hard. Just because we have to whittle it down to 3, I'm a no.
Myers.
Aye.
Thompson.
A very hesitant no.
Williams, aye. Weiniger.
Aye.
All right, so Tim Moore is in favor of 4-2. Next, on to Ms. Brownrigg. Geiger.
Aye.
Meek.
Aye.
Myers.
Aye.
Thompson.
Aye.
Williams, aye. Weiniger.
Aye.
All right, and then on to Miss Natalie Wong. I'm sorry, that passed 6-0. Geiger.
Aye.
Meek.
Aye.
Myers.
Aye.
Thompson.
Aye.
Williams. I am a hesitant no. Weiniger.
well, she's passed. And if it was a tie and I was breaking vote, I would have a difficult decision with this, but because my top three was someone different, I'm a no. But congrats, Natalie. I think you were a great candidate.
All right, well, I guess we don't move on then. So at this time, our finalists to be interviewed on January 23rd are Mr. Tim Moore, Miss Sandra Brownrigg, and Miss Natalie Wong. So congratulations to those, and thank you again for everyone who applied. We had amazing candidates, so thank you so much. And now we will need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Geiger, second by Myers. Geiger.